MCP.
Yes, Brad.
Is Bruce Boxleitner nice?
It matters not. I am 5 billion times nicer than Bruce Boxleitner.
Oh, I was hoping he'd be nice.
I don't want to see an ordinary film. I want to see something extraordinary.
Your sacrifice completes my sanctuary of 1,000 testicles.
Do you ever feel as if your mind had started to erode?
Let's rock indeed. Welcome to 1000 Wives of Weird, the podcast where we discuss weird movies. I'm Billy Martell, and with me as always is...
Brad Hefner.
And today we are finally done with No, Not That One month. And we're back to our roots, talking about any weird movies that come across our path.
Like Kunta Kinte, we're talking about Tron. I never watched or read Roots. I assume it's about Kunta Kinte going to a Blockbuster and renting Tron.
Yes,
what
exactly.
else could, with a title like Roots?
With a title, yeah. Well, you hear Roots and you immediately think, oh, it's about a guy who really likes Tron. Yeah. That's immediately what you think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're talking about a movie that is a cult favorite among certain people.
Is this our first Disney movie as well?
Ooh, I think that it might be. I can't think of another Disney movie that we've watched.
I can't either.
But yeah, this is our first, aside from Up.
I was just about to mention, but...
No fairy tale that. But we are... Yeah, talking about Tron. This was a movie that was created in the 80s. It is oft-remembered as one of the most 80s things that has ever existed. It's an early, like one of the earliest CGI animated films, or films that utilize a lot of CGI. The entire film is not CGI. This isn't like a precursor to Toy Story, although in some cases it is.
This is Toy Story. This is... Well, we'll talk about it later, but this is essentially Toy Story.
Sure, I'm interested to hear where that goes. But yeah, Tron is this fascinating film. If you have ever seen an image from it, you know what I'm talking about. There is nothing in the world that looks like Tron.
No. And there was a very early internet meme, so famous that it was covered on South Park in their meme episode, of a stout man in a Tron cosplay outfit. So people might have seen the imagery of this movie without realizing, although the meme is known as Tron Guy, so... Tron Guy.
You knew the film mostly from a joke on The Simpsons.
That's where I first heard about it.
Right.
And that's where I got the idea of like, oh, Tron is a bad movie.
Right. But the joke in Simpsons isn't that Tron is a bad movie, just that nobody saw Tron.
But as
which
a kid,
is true. Tron was a hugely expensive undertaking and was not as profitable as Disney had hoped.
But it was still decently profitable.
It was decently profitable, but Tron was a movie that Disney really hoped, like this was their Star Wars. This came out in the 80s, for those who don't know, were not good to Disney. Nowadays we think of Disney as this gigantic media conglomerate, which they are.
Exactly.
At the time, Walt Disney had been dead for years, and Disney had been releasing animated movie after animated movie that just recycled animation loops from their previous films and a whole bunch of very low budget live action stuff. This movie was supposed to be their big thing. They even said in behind the scenes material I saw that the reason why that they went with Tron as a movie idea was that it seemed like something Walt himself would have loved. This idea of like experimenting with new animation technologies.
Sure.
The way that he always did with like pushing forward with stuff like the Mary Poppins, combining live action and animation, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, or the biggest experimental film that Disney ever produced, Fantasia. They specifically said it just seemed like we were doing Fantasia, and not apparently remembering that Fantasia also didn't make a lot of money. But I first heard about this just through VH1's I Love the 80s in 3D, where, again, it was just a bunch of comedians joking about like how weird the movie was, which is, I think, probably why I remembered it for the show. But I'd never seen it before we chose it for this episode, and I started watching it for this, and it turned out to be just a fascinating experience. You'd never seen this before either, right?
No. Briefly sum up Tron.
Oh, sure. Tron, very briefly. Have you seen Free Guy? Most people in the world have now seen Free Guy. It's kind of like that. Essentially, an evil company has stolen a bunch of video game designs.
From Jeff Bridges.
Oh, brilliant video game designer Jeff Bridges.
If there's one person you don't steal video game designs from,
you never do.
It's Jeff Bridges.
You never do. But anyway, they stole Blunt Shooter 420 from Jeff Bridges, and the game took off like a rocket, and he's been left in the dust. But he goes to try and find the evidence. On the way to that, he accidentally gets sucked down the rabbit hole into an entire world that exists inside the computer, and ends up having to battle an evil totalitarian rule of the company that he's investigating's main program called MCP, or Master Control Program, with the help of the superhero Tron.
Yes.
The superhero security
People's
program.
Champion.
The People's Champion. He fights for the users.
Yes. So I guess he isn't the People's Champion.
No, he's the champion
of the gods.
He's the champion of the gods, yes.
Which is actually a note I made.
Yes.
So, my bad.
No, that's fine. But yeah, so...
Although, the perfect Tron 2 would have been Tron becoming like Spartacus among the programs.
You know what? No shit. They said in the documentary they wrote Tron based on Kirk Douglas's version of Spartacus.
I believe it.
Yeah, absolutely comes across. But and many people probably are more familiar with the sequel that came out like 10 or 15 years ago. At this point, Tron Legacy, which featured a score by Daft Punk, which was... I like the score of the original, but the score of Daft Punk is better. Yeah. Because it's Daft Punk, and Daft Punk rules.
Well, the score for this is done by the same woman who did the score for A Clockwork Orange.
Is it really?
Yes.
Oh. I still haven't seen A Clockwork Orange, but I imagine the score is
very distinct synth soundtrack.
That makes sense. This is a very different experience from Tron Legacy. Even if you like Tron Legacy, and you're like, oh, well, the tech is obviously so much better now than it was back then. Tron is a very different movie. I guarantee, even if you've seen Tron Legacy, you're not ready for Tron. So anyway, let's get into our recommendations. Brad, would you recommend Tron? What do you think of Tron?
Absolutely, I really enjoyed it. It took me, because I went in expecting it to be bad.
Sure.
It took me a while to be like, oh, okay, this isn't bad. I'm actually enjoying this. I can lower the snark shields.
Sure.
And because I watched this a few days ago and my memory is terrible, I rewatched it a little bit today, and my first note was originally, I'm already so fucking confused.
The opening is
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah. But on rewatch, I was like, okay, yeah, now I'm rolling with this a lot better. But no, I really enjoyed it. It really does. It's not as good as Star Wars: A New Hope.
No.
Or it's especially not as good as Empire.
No.
But it does give you those Star Wars vibes. Like,
oh, yes.
This could have been a contender.
Absolutely.
Much like Marlon Brando. Tron is the Marlon Brando of movies.
I do think that the biggest weakness of this movie, I'll just say, like right off the bat, is the opening couple of scenes. The movie is an hour and 30 minutes.
Yeah, it's not long.
The part that people are most familiar with, the part that happens inside the computer, is mostly the back hour. The opening 30 minutes is all set up for that hour.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of a handful.
It's a lot.
On repeat viewings, when you know more about what's going on, it is a lot easier.
Once you're immersed in the lore of Tron.
Exactly. It's setting up so much. It makes the same mistake that a lot of Star Wars, people who tried to follow in Star Wars footprints did, which is really front-loading that lore to try and make, like, we designed a whole world and we need to tell you all about it.
No, the brilliance of Star Wars was that it was a simple tale with a lot in the shadows.
Exactly. But yeah, I absolutely recommend this movie. Yeah, the first time I watched it, I wasn't sure what to think of it. I was messaging with a friend, and I likened my experience watching it to watching another movie that we talked about, Halloween 3, where it seemed like a competition between these incredibly creative, very artistic ideas and this incredibly corporate, very sort of standard sort of stuff. But like, very normcore stuff. But upon rewatching it and learning more about the behind-the-scenes material, I just grown to love this movie more and more, and I just genuinely love it now. The opening is difficult, and we're going to talk about it. This is not a perfect movie.
No, absolutely not.
I wouldn't even go so far as to say that the script is a problem, but
this movie, this is what remakes should be for. Like, Tron's a good movie.
Yeah.
It could be a great movie.
Sure, taking things that have a little bit of to it, and like making it the great thing that it could have been. For this movie, a lot like other movies that we've talked about, like Who Killed Captain Alex and The Mac, like there's something about this movie that I love just based on the chutzpah of the people who made it.
Sure.
Like, they were truly experimenting in a world of animation and in filmmaking that not only did they have no experience in, no one had any experience in at the time. And the fact that they made this movie and that it hangs together as well as it does is honestly remarkable to me. So let's get into the spoiler section of the film. As always, we encourage people, especially when we're both recommending the film.
Absolutely.
We encourage people to experience movies for themselves with relatively free of spoilers. This is a movie that doesn't really hurt from having spoilers, I think.
No.
The plot is fairly straightforward.
The plot will sound like an idea that a especially clever 6-year-old came up with.
Yes. Yeah. It's like a 6-year-old comes up to you with like a comic that they drew, and you're like, you flip through it and you're like, this is surprisingly good. But like, it's still by a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what the movie feels like. I think that's accurate. The film opens with...
Maybe not in 1982, but
Sure.
now this feels... I think I wrote something like this, where about evil computers and...
Sure. This is special. It does feel... It at times ahead of its time in a very dated way, because when I was a child in the 90s... there were all sorts of narratives about people going into cyberspace.
Yeah.
I grew up with Digimon, and constantly in this... Because I don't think there's really a name given for the computer world in this. So I just kept calling it the digital world, which is the name for it in the Digimon universe. In the new movie, in Tron Legacy, they call it the grid. In this original movie, there are a lot of different grids, so that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, everything's a fucking grid.
Everything's a fucking grid in this movie.
Gridsville, baby.
Grids mania.
Gridsville, population clue.
I live here, I am Clue. The film opens with an outline of the title character, Tron, forming out of geometric shapes. The title appears as the film makes the same visual connection hackers made between the city skyline and circuit boards.
Yes.
We see an arcade named Flynn's, where patrons are playing a game called Light Cycle.
Yes.
It's an old-style arcade where they have like the big game cabinets. Mm-hmm. The movie was so inspired by video games that Michael Lisberger, the guy who wrote and directed the film, actually brought... thinking somehow that it would inform the actors' characters, he brought a whole ton of actual game cabinets to the set.
Okay.
And they were just off camera all the time. And this caused massive delays.
I'm sure.
Because the actors wouldn't stop playing the game.
I'm sure Jeff Bridges was just stoned 24/7,
yeah.
No, man, I gotta get the power pellet, man. I gotta...
Jeff Bridges is the one who told this story in the documentary, and he said that he would just tell them, "Hey, I'm preparing, I'm getting my character ready. This is part of my character." But yeah.
Meanwhile, Bruce Boxleitner is trying to crawl inside a computer. He's cracked open a fucking Commodore 64, and he's just trying to step into it. His trailer's just filled with broken computers.
The most method of actors, our Bruce Boxleitner, the most Canadian, non-Canadian man ever born.
Oh, I thought he was from Canada. He's from Illinois.
He's from Illinois.
Elgin, Illinois. Ansel Elgin, Illinois.
Known for ruining West Side Story adaptations. But anyway, so we see an arcade named Flynn's. They're playing a game called Light Cycle.
Light Cycle is probably the most iconic image from the...
Oh, 100%.
You have probably seen this reference somewhere.
Yes.
Light Cycle is...
I called it a gussied up PvP version of Snake.
Yes, that's basically what it is.
Yeah.
The Light Cycles are little
motorcycles.
fancy motorcycles.
Yeah.
And
like the Bat Pod in the Nolan Batman movies.
Wherever they drive, they leave a solid trail, and the goal is to get your opponent to drive into either their trail or your trail.
Yes. So yeah, again, like the old computer game / cell phone game when I was a kid, Snake, where you except in that one you're trying to avoid your own tail, and this one
eat apples. There are no apples in Light Cycle.
There are no apples in Light Cycle. You know what would have fixed this movie? Apples.
Yeah. There are no apples anywhere in the world of Tron.
You want to hear a terrible joke that I just thought of? An apple a day keeps the script doctor away.
Oh.
Yeah. So now that I have made everyone turn off.
Now I want some weird like reverse movie where the snake from Snake like possesses somebody.
Oh my god.
And now the snake is in the real world and he's like, I can just eat apples. You tell me I can just fucking eat all these apples and like I don't grow?
No, because he's possessing this guy, he eats the apples and the human like grows. And it becomes this horrible body horror thing.
It becomes a crossover with Human Centipede. Where every time someone eats an apple, he connects a new person to the centipede.
God. Yeah.
And then it zooms into the game.
And
we see these...
in my opinion, far too early introduces the main conceit of the film.
Which is that... this is where the Toy Story thing comes in.
Yeah. That
what happens inside the computer, what happens when we're not looking.
Right.
They're all real people. Every program's a person.
I didn't think of it that way, but you're right. That is...
it's just fucking Toy Story, dog.
That is literally Toy Story, which... also broke huge ground when it came to like new avenues in CGI animation years later.
And another great wrinkle they could have done this movie, spoilers I guess, because
we're already in the spoiler section.
True,
so
but this is jumping ahead.
Sure.
But since Flynn knows that he's inside the computer,
yes,
Tron could have been like the Buzz Lightyear, where it's like, although I guess. We'll get into the ramifications of the reality of the computer world.
Yeah,
later.
It's
muddied. It's muddy as shit.
The very definition of a whole thing. But yeah, so inside computers is an entire world where each individual program is a sentient form of life.
Yes, but this is just an arcade cabinet, so it's like
yes,
every time you play a video game.
Another movie that ripped this off, Wreck-It Ralph. Every arcade game is its own thing, but like they all connect into this grander scape, except as opposed to Wreck-It Ralph, where you're inside the game and you're just in that part of the world, and then you have to like transport out to get to the central hub of the Wi-Fi. In this one, you just kind of keep walking past where the end of the game is, and you're just in somewhere else.
Yeah,
it's literally like a landscape. It's a whole thing. By the way. There are a whole bunch of different artists who worked on this movie. I have their names.
One of them was Mobius.
But one of them was fucking Mobius.
Mobius, famous French comic artist, worked with Jodorowsky.
Did he work on Dune? The Jodorowsky version of Dune that never got made?
I think he probably contributed something. Like, it feels like he must have.
It seems like a lot of those illustrations seem like him.
Yeah. But yeah, Mobius, huge in the comic scene.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
Like the art comic scene.
Infamous for giving Silver Surfer junk in his version of the Silver Surfer.
I wonder if he also consulted on Matilda. This kangaroo needs balls.
You know, it's a very French move. It's a very French move to give the kangaroo balls, I must say.
But yeah. Here's my question. Like, since this is just an arcade cabinet, as we're about to see, one of these light cycle riders dies.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, the very first thing that we see inside this world is, again, the guy's playing Light Cycle, so we see, that's our avenue into this world, and we see a Light Cycle duel happening, and we see that inside the Light Cycles, they're actually being piloted by programs.
Yes.
One of the Light Cycles being piloted by some unnamed program who seemed pretty scared, and the other one is being piloted by one of my favorite actors of all time.
Oh my God, David Warner kills this role so hard.
David Warner is... all of my favorite actors are character actors because they're the best kind of actor. And David Warner absolutely has been one of my favorites since I was a child. He kills every role that he's in, and he plays the villainous Sark, who is not the main bad guy, but he's like the Darth Vader to MCP's The Emperor.
But he's also voicing MCP.
Yes, he is.
And he's playing the real-life baddie.
David Warner is also voicing MCP.
Triple role.
And he's also voicing a guy in the real world, which there is a reason for that, and I will get into that later. But yeah, he's playing Sark, and he kills this other program in the game, which I guess...
So does
which
the
raises
arcade...
so many questions.
Yeah, because there's no internet connection.
Yeah.
So how is it connecting with the NCOM mainframe?
Right.
And also, is the arcade cabinet just generating a digital life every time and then murdering it?
No, we find out later that these programs are being reassigned from other areas.
No, I get that in the NCOM mainframe.
Right.
But in just this arcade cabinet...
Right, because of course in the 80s they wouldn't have connected to the internet.
Yeah, they're not... Flynn will say later, like, 8 million quarters are going into these machines.
Sure.
MCP, we will find out, is an octopus, has a wide reach.
It does.
But it does not enough to siphon programs to every single light cycle machine or space paranoid machine or whatever in the country.
As we have entered the world, I do want to touch very briefly as I can. I'm giving myself an ultimatum here on the look of the movie. I cannot describe the look.
Just Google
here.
Tron 1982.
Really, just Google Tron. There is nothing in the world that looks like Tron.
I will describe Sark's outfit.
Okay, Sark's outfit is hilarious.
It is hilarious.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that David Warner does such good work in this fucking Teletubby suit.
That's what I love about classic Doctor Who. You get to have these incredible British actors giving incredible work while on the silliest sets and in the silliest costumes you've ever seen. And that's exactly the David Warner we're getting here.
Basically, everyone's in a gray leotard. That has, like, neon piping. Blue if they're a good guy, red if they're a bad guy.
Sometimes.
Yeah, there's some fucking muddied visual storytelling.
Yeah.
All the good guys look okay. Like, it's not the coolest looking thing in the world, because it's dudes in leotards. Mm-hmm. But the bad guys look like they're in, like, combat sweatsuits.
They're trying to mimic that Stormtrooper thing of having the bad guys be, like, faceless.
But they're
armies.
not faceless. We see their faces, but they're, like, weirdly puffy and not intimidating. They almost look cool. Sark looks like Ronan the Accuser.
Oh my god.
While he has his period. And does not feel like getting into, like, his super tight outfit, so he puts a sweat outfit on, but it still has the hood and everything.
It has the hood. It has these, just these fucking crazy, like, antlers on his head that look like they're in the wrong position somehow.
All the bad guys look like they should be from the Wizard of Oz.
Yes, and Wizard of Oz...
But like a cyberpunk Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, and Wizard of Oz... Actually, Wizard of Oz is a great comparison point for this movie.
True.
I read more that they were more inspired by Alice in Wonderland, but Wizard of Oz feels more right.
I mean, they're both basically the same thing.
For the sake of argument, we'll say yes. The idea for this movie came from, again, like I said before, Michael Lisberger, who was trying to experiment with a new form of animation technology. He wanted to work with CGI. Mm-hmm. There was an idea to make the entire movie CGI, but they quickly learned that would be impossible with the kind of CGI that they had at the time. They could only do geometric shapes. So the light cycles are CGI. The ships that the bad guys fly, called the Recognizers, are CGI, and all of the landscapes are CGI, but the actual people are actors in suits who were shot against black backdrops. Mm-hmm. Apparently, originally Sark was supposed to be played by Peter O'Toole, but when he arrived to set and didn't see a set, he got very confused and walked away.
I can understand that.
Nowadays... hearing that a bunch of actors never saw the set that they were on is commonplace.
Hearing that actors don't have the full fucking script.
Oh yeah, unfortunately also very commonplace. But the actual process that gives Tron its most unique look is something called backlit animation, which was used a lot in commercials in the 80s, and Michael Lisberger's most of his work up until the point when he made Tron was in commercials, doing animation for commercials. The idea was that you would animate something that had keyframes that you would remove, and then you would film a light source shining into the camera. And that's what all the neon sections that you're talking about are. They created suits that would work the same as backlit animation and added that stuff in. Most in the 70s and 80s in television commercials, this was all over the place, being used to make Coke logos glow. But they decided that they thought it would be cool to make a story with it.
Clara Peller says, "Where's the beef? Her eyes glow. Her mouth glows."
Yes. Years before this movie was actually made, they came up with the character Tron, which they just named because they thought he looked electronic.
Yeah.
And they didn't know what the story was going to be until Michael Lisberger saw the game Pong and said, "That's where my character lives." This is the way that he tells it. We're in this world. We've seen what it looks like. We've seen that Sark is this evil dude who kills this program. Another question about this opening thing. The guy is playing his video game. So he's supposedly controlling the light cycles. But in-universe, inside the digital world, we learn that no...
Sark is like top dog. He's like the best of the best. So it's
the programs control the light cycles. It's not made clear if the guy playing the game is supposedly controlling Sark or if he's controlling the other program. It's just not made clear at any point. So I don't know what the relationship between the games inside and the literal user who's playing the game is.
This is what our Tron would solidify and clear up.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
This is what younger generations are for, to right the wrongs of the past.
And the biggest wrong that we could right.
Yeah.
The most worthy of our energy and time.
The biggest Trong that we can write.
Two Trongs don't make a right.
But Trong Turn, my favorite film franchise.
So yes, it turns out the digital world is in trouble. There's an evil, gigantic program called
Trouble in Computer City.
There's Trouble in Computer City, known as the Master Control Program, or MCP, rules the land with an iron fist. His lead enforcer is Sark, played by David Warner, saying some of the least David Warner sounding dialogue I've ever heard him say.
But David Warner can't not sound like David Warner, so...
Very true.
Like everything, he sells everything.
Oh, he sells everything. It was very funny to hear, because normally, of course, he has that great voice, he has that great Shakespearean gravitas to him, and normally...
I need a microchip, I'm so hungry.
Normally, he's delivering all these great speeches, like in Batman the Animated Series, playing Ra's al Ghul, and in this one he's saying, "Sure, I'd love to go up against those guys. Nice, nice." I'll never get the image of David Warner going, "Nice."
Leroy Jenkins!
My God, it would not be out of character for Sark to do something like that.
No, Sark's too calculated for that.
Sark is an interesting character.
He's great.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's established that MCP uses these video games in this arcade as a kind of gladiatorial arena.
And also is sort of like a death camp, because like the programs that he is... We learned that MCP is branching out and taking over a lot of other databases and mainframes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the programs he doesn't need that are not useful get sent to the gladiatorial pits. But it's like, why not just delete them?
Yeah,
MCP.
All of the programs that he takes in, that he decides are useful, he basically acts like
them.
He acts like the Thing from the Thing. Like he absorbs them. They still are around with like red instead of blue.
Yeah,
that's how they turn red, because MCP is red. But there's a lot of stuff with color changing. It becomes very important later. But whenever he doesn't like you, or if he decides that you are religiously or politically not aligned with him in a way that's dangerous, he'll send you to these cells to be kept and somewhat trained, and then send out to die in these gladiatorial arenas. So it is basically based on the way that Christians and political dissidents and just captured soldiers from other armies were put to work as gladiators in Rome. Christians, much less so gladiators, they were just thrown in to be lion chow.
Yeah.
But still, it's
chow.
It's very much based around that sort of like Roman thing, Roman culture thing.
And this is something I wish they had leaned into a little bit more. This is cool.
Yeah.
Like, I wish we would have gotten more game stuff.
I agree. I think that the movie really trips up by spending a third of the movie's runtime in the real world.
But I'll talk about it when we get to it.
We'll get to it. But yeah, so he's throwing political dissonance into this to fight to their deaths for his amusement. He tells Sark that he's going to soon throw him some Air Force programs to give him a bigger challenge.
Strategic Air Command, which I believe
Yes.
is part of NORAD. Like it's nuclear, I believe.
Okay, so he's going to send them some of those people who are so good at tracking Santa every year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also it's just going to become the movie War Games.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. That comes in a bit.
Yes. Strategic Air Command, responsible for Cold War command and control of 2 of the 3 components of the U.S. military strategic nuclear strike forces.
Gotcha. Okay.
And, of course, in the 80s, during the Cold War,
yes,
that would have been, everyone would have gone, ooh.
Yes. Yeah. No, big deal.
But now we don't have to worry about nuclear war, Billy.
You know what? I'm so happy. I'm so happy to live in the time that I live in and to not have to worry about that. But yes, so one of my favorite scenes of the film comes up at this point. We meet 2 computer programs that have been arrested by MCP for their religious beliefs. In the program world, in the digital world, programs who express belief in their users, the people who wrote them and or use them from day to day, are considered to be religious. That's a religion that you can have in this world, is to believe in the users. There are 2 characters that we meet here. There's Crom and Ram. Crom says...
Isn't Crom the god Conan worships?
Yes. Crom, I've never played you before. I do not have the stomach for it.
And it's this Crom, an accounting software.
Yes. Crom identifies it. He says, I'm a compound interest program for a savings and loan. My user, is a branch manager, Mr. Henderson. And they're like, great, another religious nut, as they throw him into the cell. And we meet Ram, who's there, and he kind of consoles Crom and tells him about like where they are, and they kind of talk back and forth, like, do you really believe in the users? You think they're up there? Why aren't they helping us? That sort of thing, you know. And that was an early element of the film that really kind of knocked me out. I was not expecting this movie that has such a reputation as being this overblown sort of like spectacle fest to have anything going on,
like any sort of lore, any sort of world building,
but like that was really smart. Like
it's interesting. I wish they would have done more with it. I wish it would have been more consistent. There
is more stuff in the movie, but it does absolutely trip over itself at a certain point that we'll get to. And I wrote down that the program, the digital world is almost sort of, I don't know if this is intentional, but kind of depicted as an almost idealized version of a Christian society, where every program that we meet knows exactly what they've been designed for, what they've been created for, their calling.
Sure.
And feels the most fulfilled when they are fulfilling that calling. And the evil of MCP, aside from the fact that he's just generally evil, is the most evil thing that he's doing is that he's pulling these programs out from where they're supposed to be and forcing them into other areas which do not suit them.
So you think Tron is the newest testament?
I think that there's a bizarre amount of Christian symbolism in this movie.
And it really revitalized your faith in Christianity and really...
It gave me a lot to think about. I'll say that. Yeah,
you want to talk to your dad about Tron?
I actually literally did. I called my theologian dad and was like, Dad, I got to talk to you about Tron.
Have you heard the good word about Tron?
Dad, have you heard that all that is seen needs to extend beyond itself into the unseen? But yes.
Dad, this isn't happening. It just thinks it's happening.
So yeah, MCP is obsessed with overtaking basically just the whole internet itself. They've been expanding their program into system after system and absorbing programs or sending them to the arcade to die. I wrote down that the plot idea is actually kind of ahead of its time and of itself, just because of how many software companies and in the digital space are desperately trying to be every other kind of program that you could want.
Yeah.
Like when Snapchat came out, Facebook and Instagram, and everybody suddenly had their own Snapchats.
Yeah.
But yeah, abruptly and upsettingly, the movie just cuts back to the real world.
With the title, In the Real World.
In the Real World, yeah. It's literally called In the Real World, where we meet Flynn, the owner of Flynn's Arcade, in his office. And even though at this point in the movie, Flynn does not know about the digital world, supposedly, he is having a full-on conversation with a program that he created named Clue, which...
And this is the basis... We talked about Tron Legacy.
A little bit,
We did not talk about the other Tron sequel, Clue. The murder mystery movie.
Yes. In which Clue was recast and played by Tim Curry.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely fantastic movie. The much superior sequel.
Yes.
To Tron Legacy. But yeah, so Jeff Bridges, the original Flynn part was actually written for Robin Williams.
I think I read that, yeah.
And when Disney
was like, no, this man needs to play a genie in 10 years.
Exactly. And Disney came on board. Originally, the movie was going to be much more of a farce.
Oh,
and
terrible.
And Disney was like, no, bizarrely for Disney, they say, we want you to lean more heavily into the religious subtext, and we want this to be more serious. Again, probably hoping that they could get more of the Star Wars bucks, because, again, in the back half of this movie... or the back hour, but I think of it as the back half. This movie becomes way more Buck Rogers. But anyway, young Jeff Bridges got the part because Jeff Bridges thought the movie sounded crazy and he wanted to be a part of it.
Sure. Sounds like Jeff Bridges.
Yeah. So
sounds like you could call Jeff Bridges up and be like, hey, there's some shit going on behind this dumpster. And be like, all right, man, I'll be there.
All right,
He won't even ask what dumpster. He'll just go to any dumpster.
The weirdest moment in the behind-the-scenes stuff that I found is just a bit where they're interviewing Jeff Bridges, and he pulls up his Tron hat from his costume. He's just like, I didn't tell you this yet, but I wear this at least once a day.
I like how Jeff Bridges is Nicolas Cage for you.
I can't get too close to a computer or else I'll just get sucked in like a magnet, man. It's just so
goddamn high.
Just constantly high. Just constantly high.
I like to imagine he puts on the hat, goes out to his yard, and just like throws a frisbee as far as he can. Goes back inside.
Oh my god! I hope so. I hope he plays.
Every day he gets like 10 frisbees delivered to his house.
He has to come to the door with his hat on. But yeah,
Tron, man, you remember Tron?
Clue is a program that's been designed by Flynn.
He's the best program in the world.
The reason why programs in this movie are played by the actors that play their users, according to Michael Lissman, is because Lisberger, thank you. He realized that so much information was being stored in computers. He reasoned artistically that programs created by people would then somehow like gain a fingerprint based on the information that they had in the system.
Well, they're made in the image of their creator, again,
exactly.
Feeding into the Christian theology of this film.
Exactly.
You should write a pop theology book about Tron.
I absolutely should. But one probably already exists.
Maybe.
But yeah, most of the programs in this movie mostly act like people, kind of arch people, but they act like people. Jeff Bridges has decided to distinguish between Flynn and Clue. He's going to play Clue as Johnny Five. No,
he has this great, dumb nerd voice for Clue. Just for this sequence.
Yeah.
Later, Clue's going to get captured.
Yes.
And then he's just going to be Jeff Bridges. But for right now, he's just like, yes, user, I will do that.
Yeah, exactly. He's just like, now, Clue, I really need you to get in here. Yes, sir, I will do this, sir. Yes, sir, I will do this, sir.
Also, there's a bizarre detail where Clue drinks some glowing yellow drink.
Yes.
And I'm like, why? What is that? What the fuck is that drink? What is going on? Why does...
He gotta have that surge. But no.
He's drinking his Jolt Cola.
He's drinking his Jolt Cola.
Because Flynn is a hacker.
True.
He's the original hackers.
He's the original hackers. The glowing liquid actually does get explained later. But again, if you...
Oh, that's right.
If you don't know about it in the beginning, that's what
just
we're
looks
saying.
Like he's drinking glowing piss.
The movie does...
Yes, really, master, I will drink this piss.
The movie absolutely helps with repeat viewings because they throw so much at you in this opening. Yeah. You don't have time to absorb it.
You really have to meditate on Tron.
You do. You have to call your theologian dad and have a really long conversation about it.
You have to call up the Pope.
You have to call up the Pope
They Pope Frankie too.
and ask him if he's
Is he
seen
Frankie
Tron.
too, or is he just Frankie?
I don't know.
I think he's just Frankie.
Okay, let's say Frankie. But yeah, apparently Bridges greatly preferred playing Clue to playing
Really?
to playing Flynn.
Well, yeah, because he got to do a character. He wasn't just playing
Yeah.
himself. He's like,
Yeah.
Man, I can act. I can act like a computer.
Yeah.
Doot, doot, doot.
He almost literally just like beep boop, I am robot, man. But yeah, Flynn.
Yeah, that's what computers sound like, man. I talk to a computer.
That's exactly.
The
Your,
first
your,
podcast.
your impression is much better than mine.
The first podcast was Jeff Bridges talking to his Apple II, and he's doing both voices. Like, feed me a floppy disk.
Okay, man. Okay. I think you need to.
Jeff, stop smoking Thai sticks. Hey, man.
You back off, man. You back off. But yeah, so Flynn is trying to get Clue to break into some sort of system and get some
Trying to break
information
into the
he
ENCOM
needs.
mainframe.
Yes.
He's looking for something. But MCP calls down the thunder.
MCP calls down the thunder, and he sends out
The recognizers.
the recognizers, which are essentially the TIE fighters of this universe.
Do you think they're called recognizers because game recognized game?
Oh, that's layered. Sure, we'll say that.
Sure, that
Let's-
phrase that definitely did not exist.
That
in
definitely did not
1982.
exist in 1982, or the many years it took for them to make this movie beforehand. Speaking of which, one of the biggest problems that the director had with making this movie is that he had never directed a live-action movie before, which I think explains a lot, and he was so used to being able to control the performances of his actors because they were all drawn by him. He was terrified directing actors because he knew that he could only shoot them a couple of times and then they were gone forever.
Well, luckily...
He could never go back and like re-illustrate things as he normally would.
Well, luckily, Mr. Bruce Boxleitner was on set to be super nice.
Super nice.
I'm sure. I can only imagine. It's the only thing that I can imagine, like, just coming up behind him.
Yeah.
Silently. Hands on the shoulders. Really digging in.
His big gloved hands. Yeah.
Being like, Steve.
Let
me tell you an Illinois saying about stress.
Yeah.
And then I'm sure he said something very wise.
Just very, very wise and thoughtful. But yeah, so yeah, Clue is found by the recognizers. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's introduced here
and
that
Clue's
comes back later, so we'll talk about it later.
In like a little tank.
This is one of the most confusing things about the movie for me. Flynn keeps talking about tank programs. And Clue is in a tank. He's having this conversation with Clue. He even says, like, okay, keep rolling in that tank.
Yeah.
And later on, when he finds out that a lot of these tanks have been requisitioned by MCP, he says, I shouldn't have designed so many tank programs. And I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, like you don't make... You would make a tank program, and that program would make tanks.
Sure.
You wouldn't make an individual program for each tank.
Yeah. It's like, oh man, I shouldn't have made so many tank programs.
This is the muddy shit. This is the shit that does not really...
To be fair,
parse.
The creators of the film did do a lot of research about computers when they were making
programs.
it. Maybe. They're about making computers, and there's a lot of little references throughout the movie that I didn't fully understand, but I know are there. But they did say that they didn't want to be like accurate with the movie. They just wanted to take the real life science and then make an artistic interpretation of it.
Sure.
But
still, there needs to be an internal logic.
And a lot of times there is, but then every once in a while you get stuff like tank programs and my brain just falls apart.
But also, I believe, I'm not 100% sure, it's been a while since I played it. I believe, there's some Tron references in Saints Row.
Oh, okay.
Especially Saints Row 4, but also Saints Row 3.
I imagine game designers fucking love this movie.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It just seems like it. But yeah, Clue also has a pet named Bit.
Yeah.
Which
and
is...
Bit's like Navi from Ocarina of Time.
Yes. Essentially, Disney, again, wanting to ape the success of Star Wars, was like, well, we need an R2-D2. So
except Bit is 1,000 times worse.
Oh, yeah. No, way more annoying, much more like Navi than R2.
It just repeats either yes, or no.
Yeah. No, they're trying to make like a cute little pet, and it's so clearly tacked on. It only exists in this scene and in one other scene, and in both scenes, there's no explanation for why it's there or what the fuck it's doing. And as far as I know, by the end of the movie, it is fully dead.
I hope so.
I sincerely hope so.
I wish we got a scene of Sark just, like, putting a fucking bullet through whatever the fuck
that would have been so
it has for a brain.
That would have been so dark and awesome. That would have
like
been,
he just snatches it out of the fucking air
and just
spikes it to the ground.
Every time a character dies in this movie, they refer to it as de-resing, and they like glow really bright and then disintegrate. So you can just have him grab it out of the air and then just like stare at it with hatred, and it like glows and disintegrates in his hand. It would have been so cool. Clue can't find what he's looking for, and is caught by a recognizer. If you haven't seen the recognizers, they're basically big arches. With the bottom parts kind of move so they can like grab you and take you away.
Clue's blasting away. He's just fucking taking down these recognizers.
He's trying his best, but he gets caught in the end. Now here's where there is a bit of a problem at this original opening part of the movie. It gets better later. But in this opening bit of the movie, this movie took so long to make and was so expensive. The process for making this film was intense. But originally, in the designs, the good guys were yellow and the bad guys were blue.
Right. Which is why Clue is yellow.
Yeah, they changed it at the last second to make the bad guys red and the good guys blue, but they had already shot some scenes and done the process for those scenes. And because this movie was made literally scene by scene to try and get like whatever money they could to finish the project, they ended up just not going back and doing those scenes over again, which is, a bit sloppy.
Yeah, it's going to get real sloppy here in a bit.
Yeah, but that's also why in the opening light cycle fight, Sark is driving Sark is driving a blue cycle instead of a red cycle, which you would expect him to be driving.
Red cycle back to menstruation.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of menstruation symbolism in this film.
Yeah.
But yeah, MCP, despite the fact that he has outlawed belief in the users, he knows that the users do exist.
Yes.
And in fact, he has a more direct relationship with the real world than most.
He talks to Dillinger.
He after he tortures Clue and eventually kills Clue, but can't get any information out of Clue.
And Jeff Bridges, while he's being tortured, his scream as Clue is something else.
Like, oh my god, it's so good.
It's
the death of Clue is like haunting.
Oh, that's my favorite Shakespeare play, The Death of Clue.
Wait,
no, hold on. Let me do that again.
Okay, do it again.
That's my favorite Edgar Allan Poe short story, The Death of Clue.
Oh, I like that. I do kind of now want, though, like they did the Shakespeare version of Star Wars. I kind of want a Shakespeare version of Tron. or a Poe version of Tron. That'd be fun, too. So MCP, upon not being able to figure out what's going on through Clue, but suspecting that it's
MCP walks outside. He takes a deep breath.
Yes.
And he gets real high. And he screams at the top of his lungs, "What's going on?"
But no, he summons his user, Dillinger.
Also played by Dr. David Warner.
Just a funny thing I thought, Bruce Boxleitner in the behind-the-scenes material was talking about.
Did he seem nice in the behind-the-scenes?
He did. He seemed very jovial and fun.
Yeah.
And someone who... Bruce Boxleitner, by the way, will come in later. He plays a couple characters in this film, including the title character Tron. We've already talked about him a couple times, so I'll just talk about him now real quick. He's a great actor. He's very much like a TV actor. He doesn't have a lot of big stuff to his name, but he's a nerd king forever because not only is he Tron in this movie, but he's also Captain John Sheridan in most of Babylon 5.
I've never seen Babylon 5. I know it's J. Michael Straczynski.
Yes.
I know it's sort of a Trek competitor.
Yes, it is... what little I have seen of it is really good. I haven't seen any of his stuff. I've only seen season 1 where they had a different captain, and then that actor was so clinically depressed he had to quit the show.
Oh, I'm glad that's how that sentence ended.
Yes. No, he was able to come back in later episodes to finish his storyline, but he couldn't maintain a long-running schedule like that. So Bruce Boxleitner was brought in to replace him.
Do you think he was depressed because he knew he wasn't as good of an actor as Bruce Boxleitner?
I really hope not.
You're right. I hope so too. I hope that's not the case.
But and Bruce Boxleitner he does come across as this very sort of jovial kind of guy who's like, "Hey, I don't have the biggest career in the world, and I'm really grateful for that people know who I am at all.
Yeah, that's good.
But yeah, he told the story about, like, saying that David Warner was a very eccentric actor. He did not elaborate on that, which I really wanted him to, but
Yeah.
he did not elaborate on it. And then he just said...
David Warner would just bring a bag of hair to set, and he'd just munch on it between takes.
Just munch on... This is delicious hair that I have here. But no, he said that it was funny because he was so intimidating playing that character, and he was but in real life, he was just the skinniest man I've ever met. And I'm like, I don't know what you mean by that, Bruce Boxlight.
when David Warner, he comes in on a cool red neon helicopter.
Yes, very Tron-inspired helicopter.
But then we see him stride into his office, and I'm assuming that David Warner is of average height.
I think so.
But the man has such presence that it feels like he evolved to eat apples out of the tallest branches of the tree. Like, he seems like 7 feet tall when he walks into this office.
He does have a very...
I don't know if it's just because he's so rail thin, or what.
He does have a very Christopher Lee-esque gravitas to him.
Yes.
For those who don't maybe know who David Warner is, most people know him best as the evil butler in Titanic.
Sure.
Billy Zane's butler. I think that's his most popular or most famous role anyway. So imagine, like, he managed to take a butler and make him seem like the Terminator in that movie. So yeah, no, he's very intimidating.
I just pour one out for David Warner. I just started to Google David Warner, and above in the suggestions, above David Warner actor is David Warner Australian cricketer.
Wow.
Or cricketer, I guess.
Yeah, sure. I like the term cricketer, though.
I like it better, too.
It's jauntier somehow. If I ever meet a cricket player, I'm calling them a cricketer.
Do it.
It's like the Rocketeer, except cricket.
He was also in Time After Time.
Yes, he played Jack the Ripper in that.
Yes.
Yes.
I don't care for Time After Time.
I haven't heard good things.
That makes sense.
But
it's
yeah,
not a good movie.
He plays... he's
in a Pam Anderson movie called Naked Souls.
He's one of those character actors who has, like, done a lot of work to pay
he's
the
in a
bills.
movie about Masada.
Ooh.
Oh, that's right. He's in Company of Wolves, a movie that we will almost definitely cover.
Awesome. He's also... Which Star Trek is that? The Undiscovered Country. That's right.
And Cast Deadly Spell, another movie we will cover at some point.
He's in actually...
And he
like,
was in The Mouth of Madness.
That's right. Yes, he played the psychologist.
Yes.
We have talked about David Warner before. He also... You know what his favorite role is, though?
Hamlet.
He did play Hamlet. But no, this is apparently true. From what I've heard, David Warner's favorite role he's ever gotten to play.
And he was in Necronomicon.
That's right, yes. But David Warner's favorite role he ever got to play, the Loeb in Freakazoid.
Oh, that's fun.
Because he got to do a musical number based on Hello Dolly called Bonjour Loby. And he cannot sing to save his life, but man, is he having fun in that scene.
That's all that matters.
He's having so much fun. But yeah, Dillinger's the CEO of a company called Encom in the real world. Flies in his helicopter, he walks in, and is just, despite how intimidating David Warner is, the minute he's in that room and activates MCP and starts talking to MCP, he is MCP's bitch.
Yep.
He is fully MCP's bitch.
I love their dynamic.
It's great.
It's great. It's really great. And again, here's where a better movie would have leaned into this dynamic more, like, would have sort of built more of this aura of, like,
the emasculation
fuck, I've completely lost control.
Yeah, the emasculation that Dillinger faces in the face of MCP. What little we get of that dynamic in this movie is fantastic.
Absolutely.
And honestly, despite this movie's problems and despite how bizarre the script can get in parts, especially during the real world segments, quote unquote, there's a full character arc for all of David Warner's characters together. David Warner acting against himself, very compelling.
Yes.
So yeah, Dillinger is one of the few people in the world, the only person that we meet, who is aware of the alive nature of MCP. Mm-hmm. He is fully in the pocket of MCP. He makes all these decisions that honestly truly hurt MCOM as a company just because they help MCP.
Yeah.
He's fully endorsing MCP's illegal activities because he's like, but the program needs to exist for its own sake. It needs to do what it's going to do.
Who would win, MCP or Ultron?
Ooh, just because I truly despise James Spader as Ultron so much, I would love to see David Warner as MCP kick his ass.
Better question.
Yeah.
Who would win in a fist fight? Hank Pym or Barnard Hughes? Who we'll find out is the co-creator of MCP.
Interesting.
By the way,
yes,
the password for MCP when David Warner is logging in...
I did not register this. What is it?
Master.
Oh, God. Oh, man. I never put their... In my head, I never put their relationship into sexual terms before, but that's absolutely what's going on.
I mean, I was more pointing out because it's the worst fucking password.
It is a terrible password.
For a program called Master Control Program.
That is also true. It's basic. It's just like now.
What's my AOL password? AOL.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Amazing. That's a password I have on my luggage.
6. God.
That's right. And password.
Yes.
Yeah. So MCP tells him that he's not sure who's hacking into his system, but it felt like Flynn.
MCP knows when Flynn's inside him.
Dillinger says cryptically, still looking for that old file, which will come up later. MCP says that he's appropriated the file Phil wants and stored it in his memory, so he can't find it. But Dillinger still decides to shut down all access to MCP by anyone except himself until he finds a more permanent solution to the Flynn problem. Which, of course, means that none of his employees can do any of their fucking work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And here... megastar Bruce Boxleitner is about to enter.
So, we're introduced finally to, after we've talked about him so often...
Oh, God, the man, the myth, the legend.
Bruce Boxleitner, the nicest man from Illinois. Bruce Boxleitner is playing a character named Alan Bradley, who they have tried so hard, despite Bruce Boxleitner's sort of like rugged, sort of G.I. Joe good looks.
Yeah.
They've really tried to nerd
Sounds
him.
like you're really crushing on Bruce there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They've tried to nerd him up a lot.
They put glasses on him.
They put these thick 80s glasses, and they gave him like a horrible comb over to really try.
Not a comb over. He's not bald.
No, but like they just
it's a side part.
It's a really nerdy side part.
Sure,
like it's designed to make him to make him look as like just weedy as possible.
Don't slander my close personal friend, Bruce Boxleitner.
There's something about the name Bruce Boxleitner that just makes your mouth shut down.
I can get to Bruce Box, and then something happens where I have to be very, very careful about how I say the man's name.
You didn't even get to Bruce that last time, though. You got to close.
It's
by the way, I did already mention that Bruce Boxleitner is popular because of Babylon 5. Another actor from Babylon 5 who does not have a big career outside of it is Peter Jurassic, who plays Ambassador Londo Mollari, who's a huge character in that show, and he's the actor who plays Crom in this movie.
Oh, I did see the actor named Peter Jurassic, and I was like, yes, that's not your real name.
No, it's fully his real name.
Oh, damn, I wish that were my name. Not Peter.
Just Jurassic? Brad Jurassic?
No, not Brad Jurassic. I don't care for Brad.
Oh, okay. Jurassic Hefner?
Gavin Jurassic.
That's
a sexy ass name.
Gavin Jurassic. Well, you gotta find out if Peter Jurassic will adopt you.
Well, yeah, that's the only way my name could become Gavin Jurassic.
That's the only way.
Then I have to get confirmed, and I have to choose Gavin as my confirmation name.
Exactly. That's what I understand.
That's the only way to get your name changed.
The only way
is to be adopted by someone with the last name you want, and then to get confirmed.
Proud to be an American. But yeah, since we're talking about it anyway, since I brought up Crom, Ram from that scene with Crom earlier is played by an actor named Dan Shore, who is also in this scene, actually, as Alan,
is the Andy Dick looking motherfucker?
The Andy Dick looking motherfucker, yes. Alan Bradley gets up
we get an establishing shot of his popcorn maker making some popcorn.
He gets upset because he's trying to work on this program he's designed called Tron.
Yeah.
And he can't get in because of Dillinger's shenanigans.
Yep.
So he goes to bitch out Dillinger.
Dillinger summons him.
That's true. He summons him, and so he goes to bitch at Dillinger. And as he's passing by a cubicle, like 2 cubicles back, we have Dan Shore pop up as an unnamed character, I'm pretty sure.
Probably.
Who's just like, can I have some of your popcorn?
A very small detail, there's a great matte painting in the back of this scene of cubicles stretching on into infinity.
Yes.
It's a great detail. You see it for 15 seconds. Loved it.
It's a great detail. There's some amazing matte work in this movie.
Oh, I miss matte paintings.
I miss matte paintings too. But yeah.
I was talking about my friend Matt Paintings.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. I've met Matt. He's lovely.
He is lovely.
Yeah. We should have him on the show.
Absolutely.
But yeah, Dan
Hey, did someone say my name, Matt
Oh my
Paintings?
God! It's Matt!
Oh no, I'm having a heart attack.
Oh no, Matt!
Well, the episode's already running long. That's okay.
Oh no, Matt Paintings is dead.
We don't have time to...
we don't have time for bits. We don't have time
to save my dearest friend, Matt Paintings.
We only have time for the bits in this computer.
Matthew Bartholomew Paintings. R.I.P. See you at the crossroads.
See you at the crossroad, Matt Bartholomew Paintings. But yeah, Dan Shore is best known for playing Billy the Kid in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So yes, Alan's program Tron is a security program meant to monitor contacts between ENCOM system and other systems, which of course will really harsh MCP's buzz since it's trying to invade all the other systems in the world.
Including the Pentagon,
as it explains in a later scene. But yeah, MCP is expanding its program outside of the system. Alan gets so frustrated by Dillinger just not hearing him out that he decides to go vent his troubles to his girlfriend where she works in the laser
bay. Oh, man.
Not just the laser bay, but Laser Bay 2.
Oh, man.
They have at least 2 laser bays in this video game company.
Well, they're also doing other shit, clearly.
Yeah, they develop software and also lasers that send you into the 5th dimension.
I would love to go vacation at Laser Bay.
Laser Bay, Florida?
Yeah. It'd just be this resort that's all like 80s sci-fi themed.
Oh my God.
And
I'm kind of obsessed with this.
It would also be a great Jimmy Buffett song.
They're one of those...
Getting disintegrated in Laser Bay.
They're one of those places...
I don't know what else I have to say.
That have...
I'm just a pile of ash. Can you lend me some cash?
They're one of those places that have those water slides that are fully dark but have all those laser lights and everything full of them. That'd be great. Laser
Bay would also be a great vacation spot for cats.
Oh my God! Yes. All of the lasers,
except for the bay part. The water part, not so great.
Not so great.
Laser landlocked municipality.
Thus enters one of the most annoying scenes in the movie, where Dr. Laura Baines, girlfriend to Alan, and Dr. Walter Gibbs, played by Cindy Morgan and Barnard Hughes.
Barnard Hughes, grandpa from the Lost Boys.
And the old father who runs the school in Sister Act 2, the superior of the Sister Act movies.
Barnard Hughes apparently changed his name from Bernard Hughes on the advice of a psychic.
Yeah. The interviews with Barnard Hughes in the documentary are the only ones weirder than the interviews with...
Has he gone like full Colonel Kurtz where he's just not making sense?
No, he compared the experience of making Tron to being in the army. He said, I didn't understand what was going on, but just like President Eisenhower, I trusted that someone in Disney wasn't going to let anything bad happen to me.
It was not a psychic, it was a numerologist.
Oh, even better.
Because Barnard Hughes is a scholar.
He said, I didn't understand thing one about that movie, but I went to see it with my daughter, and I said, I watched it. I said, I still don't know what this is, but the kids seem to like it. Which I thought is the best review for Tron ever.
I like how your impression of Barnard Hughes as Corky Sinclair from Waiting for Guffman. The kids sure do like their Tron lunchboxes.
But yeah, so but Barnard Hughes has a sort of career of playing like
Kooks.
Yeah, very, adorable old kooks, and he plays this sort of like mentor role. But all of his and he says everything in this very sort of charming, whimsical way. But all of his dialogue is just annoying, mansplaining bullshit. It's so weird.
I mean, when he explains to Laura,
he literally explains to Laura in the scene
what they're doing.
She says, "Well, here goes nothing." He says, "Yeah, interesting. You hear what you said? Here goes nothing. Actually, we're changing something into nothing, and then back again."
It's a matter transference thing. They're teleporting an orange or some dumb shit. Doesn't really matter. This is just technology that's going to suck Jeff Bridges into the computer.
It's even better because Cindy Morgan, just as an actress, clearly does not give a shit about what's going on.
No.
She comes off as bored throughout the whole movie. So it's even better because you have this guy overly excitingly mansplaining her job to her, and she, as an actor, she's just going, sure, yeah, absolutely. Cindy Morgan, by the way, best known as Lacey Underall from Caddyshack. The movie spends way too much time trying to explain how Jeff Bridges is going to be sucked into the computer later. Just have him fall down a rabbit hole. We get it.
As we know from the 80s and 90s, people get sucked into computers all the time.
Yes.
The science is just ubiquitous.
It's like that John Mulaney bit is like, movies led me to believe that quicksand was going to be a much more common problem than it actually is. But interesting note, the term for being sent into the digital world in this movie is digitize, which has become the common sci-fi term for stuff like this ever since. But yeah, Dr. Gibbs says in the future, people will stop thinking and programs and computers will instead. Great.
In the year 2525.
Lauren and Alan compare notes. Laura figures out that the person breaking into ENCOM's system has to be Flynn, her ex.
Oh. Her ex what?
Her ex-plumber.
Oh!
Yes.
That's why he's so good at video games. He's Mario.
In the Ben 10 sense, they traveled through space fighting aliens.
I don't know what that is.
That's Billy's random reference for the day.
Sure.
One day it's Pingu, today it's Ben 10. They figures out it must be...
I was thinking about the Matilda honking noises today.
Just, you haven't stopped hearing them in your sleep since that episode. So, which is more annoying? Or yes, no, yes, no, no.
Well, no, I hate Bit more than I hate Matilda.
Yeah. I just feel more sorry for Matilda than I do.
Yeah. Matilda is ultimately being exploited.
Yeah, she's a victim. But yes.
So they go to recruit their Han Solo.
Yes. Mentioning Flynn immediately causes Alan to just become an absolute shitheel. Just being so mean to her about, why do we have to talk to your ex? But they go to talk to Flynn. Yeah, Flynn.
At his arcade Flynn's.
This
is his Rick's place.
The movie really feels like it wants that to be the case, though. I know you're joking, but it really feels like that.
Except instead of Humphrey Bogart cultivating this place where the lost and the damned can congregate, Flynn just has a place where he can have sex with his 14-year-old employees. Is the vibe I got from the minimal interaction we see.
To be clear, because of the kind of movie that we watch a lot of, that's not established as a thing that Flynn does in the movie. That's just a vibe that we pick up.
Yeah.
In fact,
he does talk to one of his very young-looking employees, and she puts her, caresses his arm a little bit.
I didn't pick up on that, but I believe that it happened. Flynn, we see him just surrounded by admirers.
He's going the distance on his video game.
He's going the distance. He absolutely kills it at whatever game he's playing. We don't see what the title is, but
I thought it was Space Paranoids.
He's shooting the Recognizers. That's all that we see.
I think it's Space Paranoids.
Space Paranoids is one of the games he designed, as we find out later. But yeah, Flynn, later on, they follow... Laura and Alan follow Flynn up to his office.
Sorry.
So go ahead.
There is one detail in this arcade I love.
Sure, go ahead.
There's a random... it's very busy.
It's extremely busy. Yeah.
It's an early 80s arcade.
Yes.
There's a very elderly couple in their Sunday best just wandering around. Like the fucking couple from Mulholland Drive.
Right.
Just with
those same pasted on
sort of
smiles that they have in Mulholland
specters.
Drive.
And I was like, oh no, you have the dementia and you just wandered into the blinking place.
I did not. That's another thing I didn't pick up on, but I fucking
I
love
clocked
that.
it first watch. I was like, what the fuck are you doing here?
Love that. That's so good. They follow Flynn into his office,
Which is just his upstairs bedroom.
Just his upstairs bedroom is covered in tribal masks for some reason. Flynn has one of those MCU scenes where they just randomly take their shirts off to show that the actor got cut for the role and then put a shirt back on.
I don't know if he got cut for the role. I think Jeff Bridges was just cut at the time.
He was just a very young, attractive
man.
man.
He's just thin.
He was cut for the 80s.
Sure.
He doesn't the early 80s. He's not Arnold, but he looks good. There's a lot of like dick measuring between him and Alan is very annoying.
Yeah.
Flynn says that he's been hacking into NCOM because he's trying to get evidence for the fact that, as I said at the top of the episode, he's the real designer behind all of the games. That
Space Paranoids, Vice Squad.
Yes.
Another thing. But there's like 5 to 8 games that David Warner just stole, didn't change the names of.
Yeah, didn't even change the names. He just fully stole the programs and released them as his own, and that allowed him to become the senior vice president in charge, or whatever they say his title is in the movie.
Senior executive vice president, I think.
That's right, because Flynn says the wrong title, and then when he learns the real title, it just makes him even more mad. Mm-hmm. Apparently, he even opened the arcade simply out of spite, because he's like, I'm going to make some money off of this.
Yeah. And by God, I'm going to ball those high school students!
Oh, man. Flynn's kind of a total douchebag.
He is.
Yeah.
He's sort of the Han Solo, like
Yes.
I said, the Han Solo sort of scuzzy dude.
He's definitely
But he's also a
supposed to be-
hot shot.
Oh, yeah.
At least outside of the computer world.
Yes.
Inside, in a curious inversion,
yes,
someone else takes charge.
I will say one thing that I do like better about Tron Legacy than this is that Jeff Bridges' character, Flynn, being able to handle himself in the digital world is explained repeatedly by him being just good at computers and good at video games, whereas in the new one they establish that the new main character, who is Flynn's son, is like an action man and can do all sorts of stunts and flips and shit, which just makes more sense because he's not playing video games in the digital world, he's running for his life. But
I've got a message for the action man. I'm happy. Hope you're happy too. Sorry.
That's
Anytime
okay.
I hear the phrase action man, I have to do that.
I know. You are legally required.
I am, by the David Bowie estate. That was part of his will.
By the David Bowie estate. But Laura and Alan agree to help Flynn break into NCOM so he can get a more direct connection bypassing the block that Dillinger's put up.
And why do they want to do this?
They want...
You don't know, do you?
No, I don't. Actually, now that you mention it, I don't actually know.
This was a second rewatch thing where the first time I was like,
Yeah,
of course. No, this is how movies work. They got to move the plot along.
Right.
And now I'm like, I guess maybe Alan wants Tron back or something.
Well, we know that Flynn They know now that Dillinger is breaking the law, but as far as we know, we don't know... Well, as far as we know, they don't know that MCP is trying to take over the world.
Exactly.
So, and there's even a line where Alan says, my Tron program could stop him, and we're like, stop him from what? Like, it's not designed to find evidence of video game forgery. It's designed to stop MCP from connecting to other systems without authorization.
No, it doesn't make... It's a huge plot hole.
It's a gigantic plot hole, and I hadn't really put it together until just now.
And now here's the heel turn where I come not as a friend of Tron, but a foe. I was the Inquisitor all along, and on trial is Tron.
There's a couple brief cutaways to a scene where Dillinger and Dr. Gibbs are having a debate about the purpose of MCP as a program, whether or not it should be fulfilling user requests like any computer program should, or should just be like, I don't know, doing its own thing, as Dillinger keeps insisting it needs to be.
Just a malignant tumor that just keeps growing.
But
No, this is what computers are for. I've invented a box that just does whatever it wants.
Yeah, and once again, it's that sort of Christian ideology of fulfilling one's calling, what one was created for, is the highest good.
Is Barnard Hughes the Aslan?
I think
of Tron.
I think it's more like he's the prophet. He's the John the Baptist.
He's Muhammad.
Tron. Sure. Yeah. Well,
All right.
let's do it that
Billy,
way.
enemy of Islam, goes on record saying Barnard Hughes is the Prophet Muhammad.
Oh my God. Oh no. Okay. But yes. It also, the important exposition that gets turned up here is that Dr. Gibbs and Dillinger started this company together in their garage.
Yep.
Dr. Gibbs tells Dillinger that even if he and Alan were removed from the company, their spirit would remain in what they created.
The ghost in the machine.
Which kind of makes sense if you view this as a Christian allegory, but if you view it as just literally what the plot is, it makes no sense at all.
It sort of does make sense.
Such a weak clapback.
Because the programs look like the users, and there's...
Yeah, but he doesn't know that the programs
but he
are
feels
like that.
It's he like jazz.
It's like
Tron jazz.
That's an actual line in the sequel that Jeff Flynn is like, back then we were creating so much cool shit. It was like digital jazz, man.
I just want to harken back real quick to Alan refers to Flynn as a space cowboy when they're up in his bedroom.
Oh my God, he does.
A space cowboy working out of a back room.
Speaking of which, very soon after making this movie, Jeff Bridges made his collaboration with John Carpenter's Starman, and according to people who have seen
There's a starman waiting in the sky.
And according to people in the documentary, they, after working with him on Tron, they watched Starman and were like, he's playing Clue again. So apparently we gotta watch fucking Starman.
I guess. It's always been on my radar. It's
just kind of
I love Jeff Bridges.
Yeah.
He does his Jeff Bridges thing very well. If you don't love Jeff Bridges, then that mileage only takes you so far.
That's very true. There's then a scene with an awkwardly gigantic door that they have to get through.
Guess.
The only reason I mention it is apparently the sequel thought this was the most important scene of the movie, as it is one of the only things from this movie that is referenced in the new film.
Weird.
Is this one scene where there's a giant door and it takes way too long to open, and Jeff Bridges quips, "Yeah, that's a big door."
And for some reason, Alan is put off by that statement.
Yeah. In real life, apparently, this was filmed at a laboratory right next to a sign right off camera that said, "Caution, nuclear waste spillage," and all of the actors were super nervous the entire time.
As they should be.
Yeah.
They all saw The Conqueror and watched John Wayne die of cancer on screen. That's what happens in The Conqueror, right? The Conqueror is cancer.
I can only imagine that that's exactly what happened.
Like, the radiation in Monument Valley was so bad. It was a documentary about radiation poisoning.
Imagine making a movie about Genghis Khan and setting it in Monument Valley. What a fucking turd that movie is. Anyway,
so the reason they're breaking in is because if they go to Laser Bay 2,
yes,
they can use
the station that Laura has to log in and bypass
directly, and he can get them even in more advanced security, and they can do...
Yes.
And he can achieve his goal of getting proof that his ideas were stolen, and they can assist the plot moving forward.
Get Spock's Katra back from the Genesis planet.
Alan is going off to do something somewhere.
He goes to his cubicle, so as soon as he gets access to Tron, he can get Tron on MCP's case. And we get to see him going back to a new angle of his cubicle where we see that there's a sign that says Gort Klaatu Barata Nikto.
Yeah.
Which I thought was
a fun reference in 82. Yeah. Now, after Army of Darkness, it feels sort of...
Army of Darkness has killed that reference.
Yes.
But in 82, that's still charming.
Yeah.
But yeah, and there's also, as Brad referred to earlier, there's a scene in Dillinger's office where MCP tells Dillinger, "Hey, I'm going to invade the Pentagon this week. Just so you know, FYI, I'm invading the Pentagon.
By the way, girlfriend, I'm going to take over the Pentagon." And
essentially, we realize that the plot of War Games is about to begin, and this is the moment where Dillinger, the relationship between Dillinger and MCP is at its strongest, where Dillinger says, it's my fault. I programmed you to want too much.
Maybe you shouldn't have programmed him to want at all.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a bad feature.
And MCP literally just tells Dillinger, "Go home." in the morning, I'm expecting you to teach me Mandarin.
Bye, Felicia.
Basically, yeah. Which I found strangely endearing that he was just like, he told Dillinger, by the way, tomorrow I want to learn a new language.
Yeah, you need to get a module or something to jack into MCP's overdrive or whatever the fuck.
Imagine that all programming is essentially exactly like it is in the Matrix, where you just like jack something into the back of whatever a computer's neck is, and suddenly it knows Kung Fu. It doesn't have hands, but it knows it.
Do you think MCP likes ICP?
What is ICP?
Insane Clown Posse?
Yes.
Okay.
I think ICP is MCP's favorite group.
Great.
I think every time he hears them say fucking magnets, how do they work, it brings a little digital tear to his eye.
Well, because magnets are the enemies of computers.
Exactly. That's exactly it.
He doesn't... It's this horrifying monster that... How do they work?
How do they work?
We don't know. Where do they come from?
It's a Lovecraftian demon to computer people.
It is. So Laura leaves Jeff Bridges at her terminal, and she said, don't spill anything, and I got no other reason to bring this up except the sense memory was so strong. I just immediately pictured Kurt Russell playing chess in the thing against the computer. I was like...
What you didn't get, why Brad's laughing, is that when he made that reference, I pointed violently at my notes to be like, I did the same thing! I actually, I came up, because, later on in the movie, it is revealed that all MCP was to begin with was a chess program.
Was the evil that men do.
Exactly. It was a chess program originally created not by Dillinger, because Dillinger is a very uncreative person, but created by Dr. Gibbs. And so I'm like, that strengthens the connections to war games so much. But also, I was like, what if MCP is the chess computer from the thing? and Mac, is that his character's name?
I believe so. MacReady.
MacReady, that's it. MacReady poured his whiskey into the machine.
Cheating bitch.
Calling it cheating, but caused it to go insane. And it somehow lived, though, and observed the events of the thing and was like, that's a good fucking idea. And decided to do the same thing to the computers of the world.
And then in the reality where Tron and Flynn do not defeat MCP, MCP goes on to become Am from I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream.
I fully buy that. Honestly, that is definitely the path that MCP is going down in this movie.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I got... The sense memory was so strong, I forgot that Jeff Bridges was not in the thing, and I was like... Oh, yeah, this is just like when Jeff Bridges did that in the thing. I was like, wait, no. That wasn't Jeff Bridges. That was Kurt Russell. Another 70s heartthrob of Disney.
The funniest... I kept thinking about Kurt Russell through this movie because Jeff Bridges' role in this movie is such a Kurt Russell role.
It is.
Especially in the last... in the actual digital world segments where he is sidelined to make room for a new main character.
Yeah.
I kept thinking of the way, I haven't seen this movie, but the way people have described the plot of Big Trouble in Little China to me.
I need to show it to you.
With Kurt Russell just being the main character, but also fully not the main character of the story.
Yeah.
It was similar to that, or at least as my understanding of that dynamic.
So Jeff Bridges is hacking away.
He's hacking away.
And MCP comes on and he's like...
Laser Bay 2 is extremely badly designed because her terminal is right in the path of the laser that it's supposed to control.
That's a good point. In front of the disintegrating laser.
We're really picking apart this first half hour of the movie. I want to reiterate once again, we really like this movie. There's just a lot of problems, especially in this first half hour, where it gets really muddy. But we do really enjoy it. This is we're picking at this with love.
Sure.
But yes.
MCP comes on and is like, I can't allow you to do that, Dave.
Yeah, almost exactly.
And he fucking reverse dot matrixes Jeff Bridges into computer land.
Into computer land, where we see the first... we don't see... This should have been the first view of the digital world. And there's this incredible montage of what I assume to be Flynn's journey through the digital space to land in the digital world. But it's just this montage of these incredible fucking CGI-generated matte paintings with just this incredible stuff that is... truly insane to think about anyone in 82 doing this.
Yeah.
For context, the most anyone had done with CGI, especially the people working on this movie before, were again commercials, like little bumpers at the end of things of like PBS and Viewers Like You, that kind of shit. And then they come up with these incredible images in this film. This movie is so fucking gorgeous to look at.
Yeah.
It's kind of unclear what things were designed by Mobius and what weren't. One thing that were definitely designed by Mobius are the costumes.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Which also add to the whole Roman thing, because many characters in this universe, not all, but many, including Flynn, who arrives in the digital world already wearing one of these suits, have togas attached to their suits to further connect that sort of Roman Empire thing. Flynn arrives, furthering the Christian metaphor now, like Jesus, fully God and fully man at the same time, fully programmed
user
and fully
program.
user. He arrives in this world and is immediately
Father, why have
arrested.
you forsaken me, man?
Yeah, amazing. But yeah, he's
Forgive
immediately
these
arrested.
dudes. They don't fucking understand.
This is very much the energy that Flynn gives off in this movie. I will say that the other thing that this movie has a lot of connection to, aside from Christian imagery, is just Buck Rogers, Flash Gordon, John Carter. That whole, like, action man from our world is transported to a strange alien world that's ruled by an evil despot, and he has to fight in a gladiatorial arena.
Yes.
It's basically a subgenre that's existed for ages now, and so I might be very much reading too much into the Christian imagery. It's definitely there, but I might be seeing more just because my brain works the way it does.
Maybe.
We see our first look at probably the ugliest effect in the movie. After Flynn is arrested, Sark goes to talk to MCP.
Oh, you don't like the effect for MCP?
I like the effect for MCP at the end.
Okay.
The effect that we get here is
sort of, what the fuck is the head's name in Power Rangers?
Zordon?
Zordon.
Yes. Yeah, a little, like, imagine if Zordon were
It's like
made...
a vector Zordon.
A vector Zordon. Yeah, that's exactly it. And you can tell that, like, this is one of the moments where you can really tell that CGI was not where it needed to be for them to make the movie that they wanted to make, because it's doing that thing that, like, sometimes you'll still see in some badly done CGI movies where the effect is on a chroma key background, and we're seeing David Warner, the back of David Warner's head, looking at the screen, and the effect is like jittering on the screen.
Yeah.
They're having a little bit of a hard time keeping the thing inside the aspect ratio, especially when the lip flaps are happening. It's just kind of an ugly effect, and I don't think it gets to where they wanted it to be.
Gotcha.
But basically, he tells Sark, I have somebody new for the games, and Sark's like, is it that fucking Air Force program that I wanted? And MCP says, no, we're never going to bring that up again. Instead, I have brought a user into the system because I am so powerful, no one can touch me. Mm-hmm. And this scares the shit out of Sark.
Yeah, it should.
This is some metaphysical shit he was not ready for.
Yeah.
MCP shows that he can make David Warner very slowly limbo outside of his own control if he doesn't do what he says. And he says, what if I take away your power relays or something? And David Warner gives the funniest line read he has in the whole movie, where he leans back and says, no, I need that!
Yeah.
Stop, I need that!
But again...
He's selling
David
it.
Warner,
it's just a very silly line.
And he's in a very silly costume.
Oh my god. And
He
doing
is
a very
killing
silly physical move that he's been told to make.
But I just mean in general, he's wearing this costume and he fucking kills it. It's, again, if you put it's like if you put David Warner in a Teletubby suit. Like, it's more Ronan the Accuser.
Yes.
But the overall quality of the softness of everything is very Teletubbies.
It's very Power Rangers to me. Like, it's very sort of like David Warner is that one villain in every Power Ranger season that's like original to the American footage as opposed to being taken from the Japanese footage.
So Flynn is led to a cell where he meets Rom.
He meets Rom, and he also meets Tron, despite the fact that there is a scene coming up which is an introduction scene to the character of Tron where he meets Tron the movie makers forgot about that because they were making the movie scene by scene, and so in this scene he also meets Tron.
Yeah.
Tron is in the cell that Crom used to be in. What happened to Crom? He's still in the movie, but it apparently got moved. But yes, Tron's character, as we said earlier, was written based on Kirk Douglas's portrayal of Spartacus. Bruce Boxleitner, again, he has this very sort of like square-jawed thing. He does a really good job of unironically playing a very traditional sort of like clean-cut square-jaw hero in this movie. And he apparently he has that look is so strong that a lot of his other work outside of sci-fi stuff has been TV movie westerns.
Oh, okay.
And he actually read through the whole script of Tron while riding a horse. He was just riding a horse reading Tron. And
see, that seems like something a nice person would do.
Doesn't it?
That seems like how nice people read scripts.
The nicest people read scripts on horseback.
Yeah. He was probably on a beach. The sun was probably setting.
Sure.
For the hour it took him to read the script.
The hour. And he said he did not understand the script at all and was going to say no because he just didn't know what it was. And then he found out Jeff Bridges was involved and was like, oh, this is a real movie.
It's like, oh, I need a plug.
Yeah. It's like, absolutely. I'll figure this out. Sure. I can make it work. But he said he actually, for the record, he did really enjoy making the movie because he comes from theater. And unlike Peter O'Toole, he really enjoyed just acting against nothing. He was like,
okay.
Hey, this is fun. This is great.
Nothing. The foe of oblivion. Allow me to face it head on.
Flynn is confident when he finds out that he's going to be thrown into these gladiatorial arenas. He's confident he can play video games better than anybody. And again, this is the only explanation about how he's going to survive, even though that makes no sense.
Because, well, no. This is the consistent logic of being sucked into computers.
Right.
Is if you're good at playing a video game, you automatically have those physical skills.
I guess
every time.
Yeah,
every time.
Yeah, you're
That's
right.
the trope.
That is the trope. Yeah. That is the trope. Oh, well. But yeah, Flynn isn't in his cell for 2 seconds before he's immediately pulled right back out of it again.
Yep.
And brought with the new recruits to be hazed by Sark. Sark has this big ship, which I don't think is ever named, so I just called it Sark's Star Destroyer.
Sure.
Because that's basically its role. Which
Sark's
he flies
Ark.
out on. Sark's Ark. I like that. I like that a lot. Sark's got his Ark, and he's on his Ark. And he's yelling down at all these people. And he says, you're going to die unless you renounce your belief in the users. Then you might become part of our elite guard, I guess. They're each given a special frisbee.
A literal fucking whammo frisbee.
Like, it literally looks like they went to, like, a dollar store and grabbed a frisbee.
It's literally just a fucking frisbee.
It's not even one of those things
like
where the actors like try and give it more heft or anything. Like they treat it exactly as it like a plastic thing.
Like they paint it. There's like a concentric circles on it.
Yeah, and they do the same thing.
Just a fucking frisbee.
They do the same thing that they do to their suits. They add that sort of that chroma key element that they make it to make it glow. But yeah, it's just a fucking frisbee. But no, it's not a frisbee. As
it's
David
an identity disc.
David Warner very seriously explains, it's an identity disc, and it records everything that you go through.
Is this important? No.
It becomes important for one pivotal scene later, but it's a very underexplored element of the movie. They did try and explore it more in Tron Legacy, but they failed because they completely forgot everything that happened in the first one.
I've decided against a Tron remake, and now I want a Tron HBO series like Westworld.
Honestly, I'm fully on board with that.
Like, there's a lot of shit you can explore and flesh out, and like... Because there's so many
movie,
there's so many awesome fucking ideas. Like the idea that Tron is a champion of the gods.
Yes.
That regular ass programs like accounting software is being sent to do something outside of its programming. And
one of the best things about this movie, it's such a small choice, but it's so brilliant. And again, I've tied it back to the Christian imagery, but even just like divorcing it from that, just looking at this movie, every time we see a program talk about what it's made for, they light the fuck up.
Yeah.
Like you can just see they are so happy
Absolutely.
to be talking about the most boring shit you've ever heard. Like there's a scene later where Ram just gives a whole sales pitch essentially about insurance.
Yeah.
Because he's an insurance actuary program and he loves that shit. And then just that idea, they react to your Toy Story comment. They react to their They're programming like the toys in Toy Story react to being played with.
And, like, with their users, like, they believe in the users. If the users aren't there, what the fuck is the point? Like...
Right. Flynn is led away, and he sees Tron, who he is told, that's Tron, he fights for the users. Tron is playing four-way frisbee of death, I guess.
I thought it was... He was in between two people.
He's in between four people. It's
Okay.
it's like a plus sign on the floor, and there's someone on each end.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. But you'd think that we, after both watching it twice, we would know.
Well, I recall two people, but if you
you might very well be right. I can't remember seeing more than two people defeated in the fight.
yeah, exactly. Doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter.
This sequence is pretty cool.
It's pretty
We
great.
get some... for having a weapon that is literally just a frisbee,
Yep.
they do some cool shit with this.
The original test animation for Tron was literally just him throwing a glowing discus and it exploding. So they knew that no matter what form Tron took, he was going to be throwing frisbees.
Yeah.
And also, fun fact, another cool thing about Bruce Boxleitner, all the frisbee tricks that Tron does in this movie, he learned to do for real.
Whoa!
And he actually did. There's some pretty... Honestly, like, just once you get past the fact that they're frisbee tricks and that's really silly, there's some pretty impressive stuff. There's one moment
you
where
can't
he, like...
fucking do them.
I definitely can't. Where he, like, fully, like, it flies over his head and he just, like, catches it behind him and then keeps going. And it's not animated. It's actual frisbee tricks that Bruce Boxleitner...
box. It's just the fucking box going hardcore.
Yeah, Bruce Boxleitner, frisbee master.
What I hope would ultimately be just as fulfilling a career for Bruce Boxleitner. Mm-hmm. But, like, he just, like, started touring high schools and doing, like, motivational frisbee, like, routines. Where he's like, hey, I'm Bruce Boxleitner from Tron.
Oh, my God.
And you can achieve anything just like this.
It's just the Tony Hawk of frisbees.
Sure, I mean, but like lower rent. Tony Hawk doesn't like tour high schools in the 90s being like, you don't need drugs, you just need frisbees.
I guess I was more thinking about the way that Tony Hawk will just like enter random skate parks and start skateboarding with random teenagers. Bruce Boxleitner will do the same thing, but he'll just go to random college campuses where people are playing frisbee and just be like, hey kid, let me show you how it's done, and then just like does these insane tricks.
I picture Bruce Boxleitner coming up to a hacky sack circle and just like intentionally punting it like away, so he's like, oh shit, we lost it, guess we have to play frisbee.
Bruce Boxleitner is the nicest guy in the world, but you get between him and his fucking frisbee and you will lose your teeth.
He is a frisbee zealot.
Yes, he's a frisbee zealot. He takes frisbee as seriously as Brad takes his harmonica.
Exactly.
Reference to previous episode. But yeah, Flynn learns in this scene, of course, about that the users have religious significance, and decides to keep the fact that he's a user quiet. Flynn's first round of combat is against poor Crom. He plays against Crom playing...
They're fucking playing High-Ally.
Is that what the sport is called?
It is... I mean, in this, they have a High-Ally cesta. The thing on their arm is called a cesta.
Okay. It's that weird little cup thing that you had in gym class and no one ever used.
It's a wicker... the High-Ally cesta is a wicker basket that sort of is like a scoop.
Yeah, it's a more obscure sport that you don't see in a lot of movies.
It's a South American sport. In this, they are tossing the ball against a ceiling panel.
Yes.
In High-Ally, it's a wall.
Mm-hmm. This is essentially the Pong segment where the ball is bouncing back and forth, and every time they can't catch it and it hits the platform that they're standing on, a bit of the platform disappears.
Which I did not catch
at first.
Immediately.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, kind of wish I knew that earlier.
Yeah.
Because I, looked down, and Jeff Bridges almost falls off the edge, and I was like, oh, he just almost ran to the edge.
Sure. The platform is a little bit darker than a lot of the effects in the movie, so I can see how you might...
And it also, there's not, a big difference between a missing platform and a platform that's there.
Yes, there's a lot of negative space in this movie. But
this is a fairly entertaining sequence. This game.
Yeah, I love the games in this movie.
I wish it were all games.
Honestly, yeah. No, again, they really wasted an opportunity by having the first half hour of this movie such needless exposition instead of just jumping straight to oh man, Flynn's on his computer. Oh no, now he's in the digital world.
Yeah.
Just fucking go wild. It deletes part of the walk that they're on. Flynn wins this fight against poor Crom.
Yep.
And Crom
gets derezzed.
Flynn refuses to kill him, but Sark kills him anyway. Sark wants to kill Flynn, but MCP reminds him, I want him to die in the game.
I want him to play to death.
Also, speaking
Which is convenient.
It's very convenient, yeah. It's very sort of like Dr. Evil. What? I'm going to hang him over a bunch of sharks with laser beams on their heads, and then I'm gonna dip. What? But Flynn... But, okay, and continuing the Christian symbolism, by the way... Sark is the bad guy in this and is in a red suit with horns. So, there's that. Flynn mistakes Tron upon meeting him for a third time now. Suddenly makes the connection that
What's
Tron
your name, man?
Yeah.
Train?
That Tron kind of looks like Alan.
How do you know that name?
Yes, and that's how Tron responds. And, of course, he knows that his user's name is Alan.
Mm-hmm.
And, Flynn corrects himself very quickly. He's like, "Oh, well, my user knows.
My user
Alan.
knows your user. It's not sus, man."
And Flynn tells Tron that his user wants him to take down MCP, and Tron,
Tron's like, "My user wants that too."
yes, all of Bruce Boxleitner's delivery as Tron is this very sort of
He's the fucking hero. He's
the Lone Ranger, is what he is. He's like, my user wants that too. Like,
which again,
it's great.
Make it a series, build up that myth among the programs, like
this. Oh my God, have you heard of Tron? He's like Robin Hood. He fights for the users.
And then it would be more like of this climactic meeting between the user in the program and the program that is the vessel of the user, almost.
Yeah, no, that would be incredible.
God damn it! Let's talk to HBO.
Let's get fucking HBO on the horn.
No, Disney would never work with HBO.
Shit, you're right.
We're gonna have to work with Disney.
Fuck! Damn it! That sucks so hard. Anyway, Disney, no, we definitely won't edit, and then immediately edited all the Netflix Marvel shows plus. But anyway, now it's time for the most iconic scene in the movie.
Yep.
The light cycle race.
Light cycle, gonna say it, cooler than the pod race.
Easily. Like, the light cycle sequence is so cool.
It's great. It's very tense.
It's so
good.
And
we alluded to this earlier, but it's stupid and frustrating in the movie, where it should be all the good guys are in blue cycles, all the bad guys are in red cycles.
Yes.
Instead, all the bad guys are in blue cycles.
Yes.
And there are 2 yellow cycles and a red cycle on the good team.
The good guys all have various colored cycles. But it's so cool. Like the light cycles in the newer movie, the effects were better and they looked good. But the way that they move in this movie is obviously created based on the limitations of the CGI animation that they had. Their movements are very abrupt, but there's something about it that makes it feel so much more dangerous for the characters.
It does. You feel the peril.
Yeah. It's kind of like the way that they couldn't move the lightsabers in the early Star Wars movies very much, but it kind of made the lightsabers feel more dangerous.
Yeah.
Even though they were literally just sort of oh man, I hope this prop doesn't fall apart in my hands.
Because you watch the light cycle stuff, you think about it as a video game, and you're like, are my reactions are my fast twitch muscle fibers that quick? Could I do this? Could I fucking survive the light cycle?
And especially when you're thrown into a situation where you're literally, you die in the game, you die for real.
Oh, man.
I would be absolutely fucked. One of the light cycles, I guess, I'm never clear about how this happens, but I guess one of the light cycles, when it's destroyed, makes a big crack in a wall.
Yeah, just cracks through. The computer outlands.
It's never happened before, but might as well happen now. We got to move that plot along. And Flynn's like, you know what? What if we just drive our light cycles out of here?
And now I'll bring this up. The biggest sticking point with this film is that in reality, none of it makes fucking sense. Because why does this physical digital world exist at all? If MCP is controlling things, I can understand a malevolent program creating life just to torture it almost.
Sure.
But why also make all this digital outland? And if this digital outland exists,
it just exists.
How and why? That's something that you need to. Even if it's just a fucking hand wave where fucking Rom says, Yeah, this is just what the creator made.
I'm going to somewhat disagree. I think that line would be great. This is what the users have wrought or something. But I really like the fact that the movie just says you write a program and that program is just a person.
Okay,
I kind of
but
like
then where
that they
does all
just
the
let that
environment
happen.
come from?
The environment is the memory space within the computer where the programs are stored.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Then-
they can travel between the different sort of programs that exist within the greater space of the World Wide Web.
Well, then what they fucking should have done, this isn't hard, is like, Rom even says, like, whenever Jeff Bridges is like, oh, I don't know what the fuck's going on, man. Rom's like, oh, he's disoriented from transport. They should have had Jeff Bridges be like, oh, what the fuck is all this shit, man?
Yeah.
And then Rom could be like, it's the memory. This is the memory space that all the programs take up.
I fully agree that they could have been much more clear about that sort of thing. It is probably because I've seen so many things that have aped this idea. Like, again, Digimon works on a very similar rules where they'll just be traveling through the world and they'll be like, oh, this is a section that got deleted, or oh, here's a program that works with telephones or something and they'll just sort of wander through it like a landscape. That this idea is not very foreign to me, but I can imagine coming into this movie, especially in 82, and that was basically the biggest reaction to the movie in 82 was, what is this?
Well, in 82 I would feel it, I think it would bother me less because I would know less about computers. Where this is what we used to, this is what I assume people imagine the inside of computers were, just fucking vector Middle Earth, where it's just all this it's just this fantasy land, it's Toy Story land, where there's a whole world we don't see. But I know that's not the truth. I know it's just fucking ones and zeros. So I'm like, a program doesn't have eyes. It doesn't need to see anything. So my advanced, born in 1988 brain is like, no, sir. That is not computers.
I think that the way that they explained it, their idea was just to say, let's start with the absurd idea that programs are living beings, and then just imagine how they would live.
Okay, I just needed a hand wave. And maybe
I think that you're right. I think that would help the movie immensely.
And maybe in a larger work, like our Disney Plus series, Tron.
Yes, unfortunately, our Disney Plus series, Tron.
Like in that, if it were a broader work, maybe I would be able to roll with it if you build up the atmosphere more. But
they escape from the light cycle arena. They drive off. More of Flynn's absurd tank programs chase them as they're driving along. The landscapes in this world are insanely beautiful. Flynn and crew get away from the enemy forces, and then their light cycles, by the way, they have the handlebars, and then the light cycles form around the handlebars. So they suck their light cycles back into their handlebars, clip them to their belts, and then since they're going through some more rough terrain, they travel on foot.
Yeah.
Tron says he needs to get to the input-output tower to connect to contact Alan so he can find out how to kill MCP, because as Flynn remarks, it's only the three of them. They don't have an army to rent, so they're just going to have to trust that Alan knows what he's doing.
One thing I do appreciate is that they didn't give Flynn Neo powers where he could rewrite code from inside the digital world.
I mean, they kind of do later.
Kind of.
Yeah, I mean, at least that was
at least they don't do it now.
They don't do it now, but that is the way that I interpreted later things that happened.
Okay.
As we mentioned earlier, you see Clue drinking some glowing piss. Here, they find a whole river of glowing piss.
Oh, hell yeah, computer juice!
Computer juice. And, there's very little explanation for this.
It's just fucking computer juice,
It's just fucking computer juice. We know that energy is very important to them because of the whole thing with David Warner doing the limbo earlier. But apparently this is pure energy. It's so good for programs. Even Flynn can consume it, which raises so many questions about human to program. What are they? But they drink it, and it gives them a whole new zest on life. It even allows Tron, a character who's been nothing but grim so far, to actually laugh.
Yeah, and that's the power of computer juice.
The sequel, of course, improved upon this, because not only do they have water in the sequel, but they have roast pig in the digital world. Because fuck me, I guess. I don't know.
Well, fuck Muslims if that's the only food in the computer world.
Tron Legacy is specifically Buddhist.
Okay. Also the Jews, I suppose.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh well. They get back on the road, so they pull out their light cycles. They're immediately spotted again by tank programs that blast both Flynn and Ram's light cycles. Tron assumes that they are dead and escapes to get to that input-output tower. But Flynn and Ram are still alive, although Ram is severely wounded. I just wrote a note, this movie is so fucking pretty. Flynn gets Ram's body to a hiding spot, and they're just sort of there. And this is the moment I was talking about. Flynn realizes that as a user, and again, this isn't a moment that's really explained, this is just my interpretation of what happens. As a user, he can affect fundamental changes in the world around him, I assume through rewriting the code of the world around him. But it's not really shown why he has these powers, but essentially he has the powers of Jedi in the Lego Star Wars games, where he just sort of like takes the bricks of things around him and then builds other shit.
Well, I think that's a hallmark of all characters in the Lego games that you control.
I have only played the Lego Star Wars games and the Lego Harry Potter games where characters would already be moving things with their mind, so I didn't know if Lego Batman could do that, for example.
Yeah, he does.
He does do that?
Yeah.
Okay. What he does is he takes the hiding spot that he and Ram are in, he takes it all apart and turns it into a recognizer ship. He doesn't do an especially great job, as his recognizer's all falling apart.
He's too fucking high.
He's too fucking high to do it, man. He uses that and they fly off. And at first, it looks like they're going to get away, but Ram has been too badly wounded. He dies in Flynn's arms, but just before he dies, he correctly guesses that Flynn is a user and asks Flynn to win one for the Gipper.
In our Tron series, we'll have to explore the afterlife of programs.
Man, yeah, what their beliefs, because they do definitely, they go to a trash can, at least, for the recycle bin first. And then
but what are they recycled into? The recycle bin has the fundamental ideas that is becoming something else.
Yes, there's
which is very much into the Buddhism aspect.
The Buddhism aspect of reincarnation. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It can only be recycled. Tron breaks into the tower and finds Yori, a program I assume written by Laura because it's played by the same actress as Laura.
Yeah, here's the question I have. Does everyone, is it like us where everyone in the world has a counterpart in the digital world? Is it only people who make programs? Laura isn't necessarily a programmer. She's an engineer. She's a laser scientist.
She's just a laser scientist. Now, in the movie itself, there is no explanation for why the programs look like people in the real world. And so you're kind of left to just assume that it's like a Wizard of Oz situation where that's just what happens. But I only know about this sort of thing where it's supposed to be the users and the programs looking like each other based on behind-the-scenes material I found. It's not really explained in the movie.
No.
So I don't know. Maybe this is I don't even think that Laura even talks about creating programs in the movie. Again, she's not a programmer. She's a laser scientist.
Exactly.
A laserologist, I believe. But yeah, Flynn, still flying around in his recognizer, randomly encounters Bit. This is the second scene that Bit's in.
Thank God Bit's back.
Thank God. We see a couple of interesting designs for other programs in the system as Tron and Yori
I love this. I love this.
One of the best minutes.
This fucking Mos Eisley shit.
Yes!
Where it's like all this computer town weirdness. I was like,
yeah.
Show me more of this. Like, fucking go to a fucking computer cantina.
They barely even, like, they make a little bit of verbal recognition of what's going on where they're traveling through and Tron's like, who are these people? And Yuri's just like, oh, they're other programs. And they just kind of, like, breeze past it. And I'm like, dude.
Explored that shit.
Dude. I'm so impressed. This little rinky-dink movie manages to make a world that is so full of possibility. I just wish that they explored those possibilities more. Yeah, and I also wrote down, I wonder if a deeper knowledge of programming helps or hurts this viewing experience, because we don't know anything.
I know a little bit more than you do.
Okay, sure.
I've taken some IT classes.
You have?
Yes.
Okay. I tried to teach myself to program, and it didn't work out. But
Well, you're still trying to teach yourself to read.
That's true. That is very true. And to listen to anything other than Bruce Springsteen without vomiting.
Yeah.
That's like trauma shit. Anyway.
A lot of callbacks to older episodes.
Yeah, a lot of callbacks this episode.
Someone's been listening to our back catalog.
Yeah,
I'm glad someone is.
Definitely me. Yeah.
Flynn crashes the recognizer into a wall.
This is one of my favorite bits, is with the recognizer crash, because it crashes literally bit by bit, no pun intended, where like the blocks making it up just keep getting knocked off, and it's such a fun visual.
This was another sticking point for me, just with the internal logic of the film, where I was like, okay, he crashes the recognizer into a wall, damaging the recognizer and the wall.
Yes.
But neither are real. Why would
what does
ones
that
and
mean?
zeros like have? Why would there be the ability to incur damage?
No, that's a very good point, and it's.
And the problem is,
what does this kind of damage that's happening look like from a user perspective, looking at the computer?
Yeah, sure.
What's happened? Did part of someone's essay disappear when he crashed his ship? Like, what's going on?
And like, I like the movie enough where I'm willing to suspend disbelief, but the movie has done nothing to facilitate that.
No, it has not. To greater put this in context about what era this movie, in terms of computer evolution, this movie was in, when they were talking to one of their experts to discuss this film, the expert was telling them about this great idea that he had for a home computer. Like, this is how early we are. But yeah, Tron and Yori climb the tower, and they eventually make it to a program designed by Dr. Gibbs and played by Barnard Hughes. Sorry?
This is the point where I was wondering what the fuck Bruce Boxleitner is doing, like, in the real world. Like, he's just... What the fuck is he doing this entire time? Is he just fucking jerking off to his popcorn machine?
Oh... I think the only explanation that I can think of what Alan is up to is that time, like in Narnia, time in the Tron universe must move so much faster.
That's why Laura and Alan aren't like, where the fuck is Flynn?
Because Alan even says before they split up in the live action segment that he's like, hey, we have a very tight window to get this done. So this has to be happening in a very short amount of time.
Tron and Yori come up and meet
Dumont,
and I love this costume. I love this design.
Oh my god, it's
fucking
crazy.
Barnard Hughes's gargantuan Imperial Computer Pope.
That's the only way to describe it. Yeah, the Imperial Computer
with
Pope.
his hands coming out of his pecs. Again, it looks like some Wizard of Oz, like Guardian of the Emerald City bullshit.
It looks like the Guardian of the Emerald City mixed with the Pope, mixed with the Pope Mobile, mixed with like
some Warhammer shit.
Some Warhammer shit, like a character that would appear in Eraserhead. Like, it's just so cool.
It's nuts. It's nuts. He looks like some big computer cyst.
He looks great, and he's like a program that he's like built into the side of this hill.
I'm gonna ruin this for you.
Go for it.
He looks like a cyberpunk Grimace.
With the way that his arms are sticking out of the costume, it does kind of like have this sort of like, ooh, Ronald McDonald, like that sort of vibe. Yeah, I agree.
And apparently something happened at this point where my personal meme of Bruce Boxleitner being nice started, because I wrote, put Bruce Boxleitner in more things. He's not the best, but he seems nice.
He does seem nice. He does.
And I also noted, Dumont is so cool.
Oh,
the whole movie should just be about Dumont slowly and awkwardly going places. In his big fucking stepped pyramid little conveyance.
Unfortunately, later on, when it's time for Dumont to actually move around, they take him out of the suit.
I know, and it's so disappointing.
They basically establish that, yeah, this is his Pope suit, and this is like his sort of dressed down priest look, but like, it would have been so much cooler if it was like they had to rip him out of the mountain, and then he was just like lying there bleeding like juices. Because
he's a Guardian program, so he might like, you could imagine him as like a fixture.
Sure, yeah, that would be fucking fantastic. And man, get Jim Henson Company in on the Tron universe. But Barnard Hughes definitely fares better in this role than he does as Dr. Gibbs, in my opinion. Like, he gets to do some
more interesting.
He gets to do some more interesting stuff, and he has my favorite.
Do you think they let Barnard Hughes go home with the costume? Do you think he just like walked home from the set with
From
that?
what I understand, they let them all go home with their own costumes.
Really?
I'm pretty sure, because both Bruce Boxleitner and Jeff Bridges have their costumes at home.
Well, fucking dig up Barnard Hughes' grave, see what he's buried in.
But yeah, and then Barnard Hughes has one of my favorite line in the movie: "All that is visible must grow beyond itself and extend into the invisible." It's again like this religious shit, but it's also like connecting to this Lord of the Rings sort of Narnian sort of like this epic fantasy vibe. He allows. After some much consternation, he allows Tron past him to make contact with his user. Anyway, Tron communes with Alan in this awesome sequence where he holds the only scene in which the memory discs are important. He holds his memory disc. The memory disc flies up into heaven to connect with Alan. Alan gets all the data from Tron and then sends the memory disc back, loaded with a new program designed to take down MCP from the inside. He says, you need to throw this at MCP's base. You need to hit MCP in the base with it. And Tron holds the disc and says...
And Tron says, I'm all about that base.
He holds the disc and he says, this code disc means freedom. I love how seriously this movie takes its bullshit. It's so good.
It needs to be more.
It needs to be more.
It needs to be fleshed out.
Sark arrives just a little bit too late as Dumont has allowed our heroes to escape. He asks them, where were those programs? And he says, what programs? And then they arrest him, and this is where we find out, no, it's just a costume. And I'm like, fuck. We then see, after Sark arrests Dumont and fails to arrest Tron and the others, he has another meeting with MCP where once again MCP starts threatening him, and he says, I've given you power, Sark, and I can take it away, or something.
And my question is, of what? Is he like the fucking Baron of some sort of digital feudal... Like what? I love the idea. Mm-hmm. Not so much in the MCP idea of like an evil AI that wants to control everything, but this idea of a sub-program that has some sort of ambition.
Sure. But
then just like, give me something.
Yeah.
And this is where I finally realized that this is Toy Story.
Yes. Yeah, Toy Story also never really interrogates the idea that these toys are alive and what a horrifying thing that actually is.
This is just computer story. This is what programs do when we're not around and when we can't see them.
That's exactly right. That was the log line for the film. So Yori and Tron steal a solar sail simulator, which is another one of those things that's like, sure, this might as well happen. Doesn't make a goddamn lick of sense, but it's very cool looking. Pretty sure the solar sail was also a Mobius creation.
I believe he worked on the vehicles.
That makes sense. Okay. But they fly it away...
At least some of the vehicles, because there was overlap in design.
Sure. They fly it away from the tower towards the hub of MCP. A very important thing that happened, that I forgot to mention, is that after crashing his recognizer, Flynn was able to disguise himself as one of the bad guys by getting close to one which somehow caused him to turn red. During this scene, Flynn catches up with Tron and Yuri, gets onto the solar sailor before they get too far away, and by being close to Tron, he turns blue. Mm-hmm. And this is given some sort of significance in Jeff Bridges' acting, but is never fully explained, but does become important later. Oh, yeah, Sark... In the scene between MCP and Sark, not only does he threaten to take away his power, he says, I'll cut you down and put you in a pocket calculator. Which is just like...
I mean, that's a good joke, but also
very silly.
Does not make sense.
Doesn't make sense. Flynn admits to Tron and Yuri that he is a user. And Tron says that Flynn...
A heroin user. They have an intervention.
Tron says that if Flynn is a user, then everything he's doing must be according to some plan. Flynn laughs and says, you wish. Well, you guys know what it's like.
The universe is meaningless, man.
You just keep doing what you're supposed to be doing, no matter how crazy it seems. And Tron responds, well, that's the way it is for programs, yes. Hate to disappoint you, pal, but most of the time that's the way it is for users, too. And this moment knocked me the fuck out.
Yeah.
Because so much of the movie does sort of fit this very Christian allegory style, but one of the main tenets of Christianity is that God is all good. It's like it's a main point of theological debate between Christians and other faiths about the idea of like, can God be all good if evil exists in the world? Wouldn't that mean that he is not fully good, or maybe he's all evil? And this movie's response to this debate is that God is just some sort of like well-meaning doofus trying his best, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh well. So it's just like, it's such a weird theological wet fart to me.
My proposed end for our Tron series,
yes,
is that quote unquote God gets sucked into the human world as another layer of like as an inversion or a macroscopic way of the programmers getting sucked into the digital world.
We meet our users.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that the end of this movie really points towards that. But yeah, so that was a weird moment for me. But yes, Flynn,
really made you question your faith.
It made me question my enjoyment of the film temporarily.
Do you think Martin Luther watched Tron and that's what caused the schism?
I think a time traveler went back in time and was like, you know what Martin Luther needs to see? Fucking Tron.
I only have one time jump. I know exactly how to use it.
That's the episode of...
You, Catholic priest! Let me explain what film is. Let me explain what computers are. And now I'm going to show you Tron.
Flynn seems to be hitting on Yuri quite a bit, which I thought was gross.
Yeah, it was super gross.
Yeah, we get a rare moment of 2D animation reminding us what the creators of this movie were traditionally good at.
Did we pass by the grid bugs?
This is the grid bugs.
Okay.
We get a rare moment of 2D animation where a bunch of weird classroom projectors with spider legs come alive. They're called grid bugs, and in the same shot in which they appear, Yuri has a bit of voiceover. Yuri has a bit of voiceover where she says, "Oh, we gotta be careful. Them grid bugs is gonna get us."
Here's the thing. I love these grid bugs. I love them so fucking much.
And obsessed with them.
If I were like 8 to 12, I would be going ape shit. I'd be like, tell me more about the grid bugs.
Yeah.
Is there a grid bug action figure? I need the grid bugs.
Unfortunately, the grid bugs are another one of these things that just like pop up and then are just not a big thing. But like, it is a moment because the animation on them is so good they
look so cool,
lively. They look so cool. They match the rest of the world well. They're green and they match the vibe of the rest of the world so well. It really shows you like that. Again, this company that made this was a 2D animation company that just decided to branch out. And this sequence shows you how good they really were.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that the only other thing that they ever really made that wasn't a commercial is the famously horny Animal Olympics shorts.
Yeah.
But I wish that there was honestly just a little bit more 2D animation sprinkled in with the CGI. It'd be great.
Like, I love the faux digital animation more than I like the digital animation. Like, it's...
I love it.
It all looks good. It all looks good.
It all mixes so well in such a weird way. Our heroes are flying along having this theological discussion when Sark's Star Destroyer comes out of fucking nowhere and just rams them to shit.
Classic naval tactic.
Classic naval tactic. Tron is presumed dead.
Yeah, and
we know that he's not because it's the climax of the movie.
And also, no fanfare is given to his supposed death.
Yeah. We don't even see why they think that he is dead. And we already pulled this trick with Flynn earlier anyway.
I was so confused that in the next scene, Yuri says, "Tron's dead," and I went, "Since when?" Like, I fucking had to rewind because it happened so goddamn fast.
No, seriously. But yeah, our heroes are threatened by Sark in a cell. And I wanted to bring attention to this one because Laura Baines in one of her interviews said that David Warner was so intimidating in this scene, and this is like the only scene that she shared with him in the whole movie that she was actually remembers being scared of him.
Oh man,
when filming this scene.
That's a testament to David Warner's prowess.
Yeah,
when you can be dressed like a neon lit Hershey Kiss. And you can intimidate someone?
Oh my god. No, I mean for real though. But yes, Tron, meanwhile, is pulling a Dr. Jones from the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark and has climbed on board the outside of the Star Destroyer and is flying towards the MCP headquarters. We finally meet the actual face of MCP. Looks literally like face from Nickelodeon Kids when I was a kid.
Okay.
And you said that this is also the face of Moses from South Park.
Yes.
Great.
Another early reference that I caught to Tron.
Sure. So Sark leaves them all behind in a Star Destroyer and is like, I don't need this shit anymore. I'm going to de-res my entire ship and everyone in it, which seems like a waste of resources. But
well, to quote Randall from the Clerks animated series, when Cortez got to the New World, he burned his ships in order to inspire his men.
Oh man, Clerks the animated series. But yeah, Flynn. So the people inside the ship start to de-res, but Flynn just brings Yuri back to life immediately. So I guess he is literally Jesus now. Tron reveals himself by just like the cowboy Bruce Boxleitner was born to play. He walks. He doesn't bandy about. He walks right up to MCP. He's like, "Hey, motherfucker, come out and face me."
Identity disc, bitch.
Yeah, exactly.
Come out and froth me.
MCP has this other great quote that I loved in talking about the world. He is in the process of slowly de-resing Bernard Hughes' character here. And as he's absorbing him and all of his information, he says, "All programs have a desire to be useful. Once the process is complete, you will no longer wish to communicate with each other. You will instead become a part of me." I just liked that a lot.
Well, that's sweet. He has good intentions.
Tron and Sark have a laser frisbee fight.
This is pretty great.
So good.
This is pretty fucking great.
It's so good. Again, the games in this movie are where it really shines.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's essentially a lightsaber fight. Like, it's just like them shooting glowing things back and forth.
But a lightsaber fight is just a sword fight.
True.
This is a fucking...
They're jumping, they're dodging, they're throwing they're playing dodge frisbee.
Yeah.
And it's so good. But the best
and David Warner's just playing it to the fucking hilt.
Oh my God.
And MCP's looking all trippy.
Oh yeah. The best part though is in the end of this fight, Tron kills Sark. He aims a killer blow right through Sark's disc. It shatters it in two, and then it just lands a fucking dent in his skull. It breaks his helmet in two, and we see red glowing shit flowing out of the top of Sark's head in a moment that simultaneously has no gore at all and felt so fucking gnarly to me.
I don't know how it would jive with our narrative, but I want somehow in our Tron show for Tron to be the one who brings murder to the digital landscape. Like, he commits first... Like, not a de-resing.
Right.
A murder.
A murder. I don't know how that would work either, but
I
love it so much. It's like he's the first program to murder another program, and there's like, oh my God, there's like a whole... And he's like, I'm supposed to be the hero who fights for the users, and yet I have become a monster among my own people.
And then he marks himself in Sark's blood.
Oh my God, yes.
And he changes his name to, like... something like Kane, but obviously we'll have to make it a little less obvious.
A little less obvious. Yeah, it's not like this movie is incredibly ham-fisted with its religious imagery. But yeah, Tron is now up against MCP himself, but none of his frisbee tricks are able to get past MCP's shields. He's trying everything in every trick in the book. It's not working out.
I want to point out something that sort of gets subverted here, but is something I appreciated throughout the film, and I sort of mentioned it earlier. What I love is, in the outside world, Flynn is the hotshot. Like, when we go in, we expect him, and to an extent he is, but inside the computer, it's all about Tron. Tron's the fucking hero. Yeah. That's why it's called fucking Tron.
Mm-hmm. It is very strange, because normally in narratives like this, when you have a character who is the one, Neo... And
who travels to the other land.
They are the hero. Again, Buck Rogers, Flash Gordon, John Carter, they're the hero of that story. This is so unique because Tron is not special among the programs aside from his mission statement.
Yes.
And the fact that he's really good with frisbees.
And he is the ultimate security program or whatever.
The ultimate security program.
He is somehow special.
Yeah, but he doesn't have superpowers based on, like, he's just really good at what he does. Flynn literally has superpowers, and the movie's like, yeah, he's not that important.
Oh.
He's fully the one. It's like if the movie, it's like if the Matrix was like, yeah, Neo is a god. This story's about Morpheus, like that, and that was the movie.
It'd be if it were about Agent Smith, because he's the program.
But
here's again, we'll get cut out for our non-existent Tron show.
Yeah,
but
we need to save all these ideas.
This is the crux of the program revolution, where Tron is like, who killed Sark? Who fucking stood up? Was it Flynn? Was it the user?
Yeah.
No, it was Tron. It was me.
It was me. Oh man, that'd be amazing. So you think that Tron would turn on them as well?
Yeah, I think
man.
I think that again. This is like a season 3 thing.
Oh yeah, definitely season 3. But yeah, so Flynn realizes somehow that the color changing shit he was doing earlier is significant. How? Why? I don't know. But he realizes that somehow, if he gets into MCP, who is red, he can turn him blue. And therefore, somehow make an opening for Tron to kill him. He shares an entirely chemistry-less kiss
Oh my
with
god,
Yuri.
I hated this. I hated this. Yo, don't kiss Yuri. That's Tron's girl.
Yeah.
Made me super uncomfortable. Granted, they thought Tron was dead. Doesn't matter. It muddies the narrative so hard.
I think even at this point in the movie, they've seen Tron fighting down there.
Really?
So I think that they did know he was
Even
alive, and he
worse.
kissed him anyway. But kissed her anyway. But yeah, Flynn sacrifices himself. He dives into the top of MCP, flows down the tunnel, turning MCP blue. MCP is very confused about this, and
What?
and allows Tron to deliver the finishing blow, throwing his disc and slicing through MCP, destroying him. Oh, and there was a brief sequence I forgot to mention where MCP says, "I'm giving you all my power now, Sark," and Sark's corpse reanimates and grows gigantic.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
I completely forgot about that, even though I made a note about it. It is really cool.
It's
just
sort of
like,
neat. Giant David Warner.
Yeah, it's just, again, it's not explored enough to leave a lot of
It ultimately does not matter.
We get a beautiful montage of the digital world returning to its former glory.
Yeah.
And nature is returning to what it's supposed to be, just like at the end of Lord of the Rings. The world and like a lot of the backgrounds were designed by a man named Sid Mead.
Another bit for a non-existent Tron show.
Right, yes.
So this might be like end of season 1, end of season 2, who knows?
Sure.
But at some point, like this idea that the digital landscape has now become a environment and is now like this sort of out of control computer program that's just infecting spaces in the real world, and they're like,
Ooh.
what the fuck? Like, and Flynn, who knows that the digital world is real and has consequences, like, what the fuck do I do with this expanding landscape that is just taking up space on computers? Like,
Yeah.
this is technically a virus, but
there are
this
so
is
many
the expansion of an actual world.
living sentient beings who are going to die if anybody like turns on their virus protector. Yuri, I guess, learned what kissing is through kissing Jeff Bridges, because when she's reunited with Tron, she kisses him, and Tron's like, acts surprised, is like, that's nice.
Slaps her.
He says, I like this. And Barnard Hughes' character shows up and says, computer programs may now connect and serve their users as they were created to. Flynn, of course, didn't really die and is transported back to our world just in time to see printed out evidence showing that Dillinger did indeed steal his ideas from him.
Which is just a fucking piece of paper that says
Literally,
ideas
yeah.
by Flynn, whatever Flynn. Or,
yeah, would not hold up in court at all. But
something you could do on a fucking typewriter.
Another one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie. We see Dillinger show up for another day of work. It's a repeat of basically the same sequence as from the beginning. He walks into his office, he turns on MCP, and all that's left of the program is the text from the printout saying that he stole from Flynn.
Yeah.
He sits down in his chair looking defeated and empty, and the camera pulls back to like a wide shot of him sitting alone in his office. And it's so fucking good.
Yeah.
This movie has these weird moments of brilliance that break through. But yes.
Now we get a very tacked-on ending where Flynn, Alan, and Laura all hug at the helipad.
At the helipad, we get a sort of like an inference that Flynn is now the CEO of NCOM.
That's how businesses work.
That's how businesses works. And as he hugs them, he says, "Greetings, programs!" And then we hard cut to a shot of the city as night falls. The details soon replaced by a series of colored lights showing that just like the programs had users created them with purpose to reach beyond their world into the world beyond, that we too, a purposefully created being capable of intelligent design, with We were purposefully created by a being capable of intelligent design with the purpose of growing beyond the world we were made for, and that we too were created by some doofy gamer bro who was just trying his best.
Probably.
Yeah. So, any final thoughts on Tron?
No, I enjoyed it. I think more people should check it out.
I agree.
Obviously, we need to make our Tron television show, which will run for 9 seasons.
I'm so stoked about the ideas that we've come up with here that will definitely never be made into anything.
No, if we were ever to make, even if we were to secure a Tron show through Disney,
yeah,
they would never let us do what we want to do.
No, not even slightly. Especially after Tron Legacy didn't do well.
Yeah.
No, I think they're done with Tron for now. But thank you so very much.
Tron's not done with them, though.
No, not by a long shot. Thank you so very much for listening to this deep dive on this 80s relic. And Brad, what are we going to talk about next time?
Next time, unless I change my mind, because even though we had a little bit of a break before this episode, we're going to have another break because I will be very busy.
Yes.
But I think next time we're going to return to Frank Henenlotter.
Nice.
And talk about Frankenhooker. Or, if we want to be PC,
sure.
Franken sex worker.
Yes. We need to be very, very tactful when talking about Franken sex worker.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. Good night.
All right. Have a couple.